Chapter 151. You can search in Baidu for Fast Crossing System. Male God. You come to search book www.sashu.com to find the. He coldly hummed. Where is the Empress Dowager? A little eunuch next to him immediately crawled to his feet and flattered. The Empress Dowager is still locked up with her brother. Thinking of Wei Wei by locked up with the skinless corpse, that woman had been pampered since childhood, only humiliating people. When did she experience this? Maybe she had already gone crazy. Mu Yanjun laughed sarcastically. How can I let her have it so easy? Tonight, I will serve our Empress Dowager. Wei Wei Bai sat next to the corpse, constantly hypnotizing herself. This was a white chicken, not a person. Then she took a deep breath to calm down, waiting for the system to remind her that the male lead had arrived. A choking sound suppressed in her throat, very bleak. Little Zhao, sister is useless. I can't protect you. You have been kind since childhood, and your only dream is to protect your home and defend the country. You are only 16 years old. How can you suffer this? Mu Yanjun had just walked to the door when he heard Wei Wei Bai's words. He coldly hummed. Bai Zhao was vicious and domineering. He never regarded civilians as human beings, and it was unknown how many people he had killed. He was kind? Protect the home and defend the country? What a joke. Wei Wei Bai weakly choked. I can't kill the traitor. I can only accompany you myself, my poor kind brother. Mu Yanjun heard the sound of the blade being pulled out and kicked the door open. He walked in and saw Wei Wei Bai holding a knife to her own chest. Her eyes were desperate and confused, and the knife was about to enter her chest. Mu Yanjun casually picked the flower leaf next to him, flicked the leaf, and directly bounced off the knife in Wei Wei Bai's hand. Wei Wei Bai was startled, and her whole person stepped back. Her skirt was stained with blood, and she was somewhat embarrassed, but it did not diminish her soft and beautiful appearance. The Empress Dowager's status is noble. Isn't it too dull to die like this? Mu Yanjun's indifferent tones sounded ghostly and gloomy in the night. Wei Wei Bai's face was pale, but she was not afraid. Her eyes were clear and fearless in the candlelight. The traitor is in power. There is no way to be loyal. Wei Wei Bai looked at Mu Yanjun, her back straight and upright. My Bai family is loyal and devoted to those above, humble and virtuous to those below. We have never wronged anyone, nor have we ever slandered anyone. Now that we have fallen to this end, it is to repay the country with death, leaving behind a good name for hundreds of generations, a heart of loyalty. The system silently flipped through the Bai family's information, framing the loyal, abusing power and interfering in politics, bullying men and women, corruption and selling official positions, causing the imperial court to be in a foul atmosphere, and the people to have no way to make a living. The host's ability to lie through his teeth must be at least level 10. Mu Yanjun seemed to have heard a joke and laughed darkly. You say, you have never wronged a person? Wei Wei Bai stood in the coagulated blood and raised her head to look at him. She was neither afraid nor hesitant. Yes, because I know that they are all kind people. The system silently flipped through the information folder and looked at the number of people that the Bai family had killed by mistake. It was enough to build the Great Wall. He was so fucking kind. Mu Yanjun looked at her, but he could not see the fear he wanted, the timidity, and the guilt. She stood quietly in the pool of blood, clearly weak, but there was a sharp coldness like a steel knife. She emphasized word by word, even if I die, I know that our Bai family is righteous and kind, and you are doomed to stink for thousands of years. Mu Yanjun only felt that his reason was broken. Wei Wei Bai gently tapped the system. Do you know what makes the victim collapse the most? The system had already admired her ability to lie. What is it? Wei Wei Bai, deny that he has been harmed, and then he will. Not waiting for her to finish, a cold hand had already gripped her neck. Wei Wei Bai, very good. Mu Yanjun's eyes lit up like a ghost fire. I won't let you die. I will let you live a life worse than death. / Chapter 152. You can search in Baidu for Fast Crossing System. Prince Charming, you come to search book www.sashu.com to find the system's obsessive-compulsive disorder flared up. Then what will he do? Wei Wei Bai's face was noble and cold, pitiful and unyielding. He will leave me a dog's life, and then toss me to my death. I have to admit that he is a pitiful victim, and my idiot father, mother, brother, and so on are the culprits. System. I thought he would increase his favorability towards you. Wei Wei Bai. You think too much. I can't even keep my life. Where will the favorability come from? -50. Every minute he wanted to kill her favorability. If she didn't do something, she would be killed by Mu Yanjun. Mu Yanjun couldn't bear to see Wei Wei Bai's clear and clean eyes. The Bai family's people were all beasts, all dregs, all should be killed. He lowered his eyes, and the malice in his eyes seeped out. Want to know what your father did? He framed. Wei Wei Bai coldly hummed. I don't listen to the words of a traitor. Mu Yanjun's fingers trembled. Abruptly pinching a mark on her neck, he framed. Wei Wei Bai stubbornly straightened her neck. I don't listen to the words of a person with a vicious heart. Mu Yanjun gritted his teeth. Wei Wei Bai suddenly sneered. You don't want to say that my Bai family framed loyal people, ran amok, acted recklessly, killed countless innocent people, and then put a tall hat on yourself, saying that you were one of the people who were framed, so you came for revenge? Mu Yanjun. Isn't this well known? Wei Wei Bai's tone was cold and righteous. Do I look like a person who is so easily deceived? What you said is a lie. Mu Yanjun only felt that his anger of revenge was abruptly blocked by Wei Wei Bai's words. His brows furrowed, and anger colored his eyes. The calm voice also became fierce. Have you forgotten how you made me like this? Wei Wei Bai sized him up and said seriously, I don't know you. Ding. The male lead's favorability is at -52. Mu Yanjun finally got angry. His hand touched the dagger at his waist, and the tip of the knife directly stabbed into Wei Wei Bai's eyes. Wei Wei Bai didn't even blink. She looked like she wasn't afraid of death. The tip of the knife was so close to touching his eyes. Mu Yanjun's voice was clear and low, completely different from his gloomy and treacherous tone. Your Bai clan has stirred up chaos in the world. The people have no way of making a living, and who knows how many people have died. You still have the face to tell me that the Bai clan is a loyal subject? Wei Wei Bai's face was pale, and her long hair was draped over her back. She looked so delicate that she would break at the slightest touch. But facing the tip of his knife, her pupils didn't even shrink. She pursed her lips, frowned, and said word by word, Why don't I have the face to say it? What I said is the truth. Our Bai family has been loyal for generations. How can you slander us? She was not afraid at all. She was so innocent that she really felt that the Bai family was kind. No. Mu Yanjun bowed his head and observed with cold eyes. It wasn't as if she didn't look like she was lying. His father was a good official who was framed. He was tortured to death and was unwilling to change his words to harm others. He also had this expression before he died. Calm, fearless of life and death. His eyes were full of calm and clean firmness. Wei Wei Bai suddenly reached out and grabbed the blade of his knife. She looked up and sent the knife to her own neck. Her movements were clean and neat, without a trace of hesitation. Her fingers were cut by the knife, but it couldn't stop her resolute desire to die. Mu Yanjun's black and strange eyes trembled slightly. His hand moved as fast as lightning, and the dagger returned to its scabbard. Wei Wei Bai couldn't retract her strength. Her whole body was thrown into his arms. Read at https://www.sashu.com//. Read at https://m/sashu.com collections at the bottom to record the reading record. Chapter 153. Mu Yanjun only felt a fragrant wind hit him, followed by a soft and warm body contact. He was absent-minded for a moment. Wei Wei Bai had already reached down to grab him. She intended to pull out the dagger that he had just inserted and commit suicide again. If she wanted to die, she wanted to die thoroughly, lest he be suspicious. But the movement was too fast, and she couldn't see clearly. Her movements deviated a bit, and then her fingers caught. Soft? Something with weight? What's that? Mu Yanjun trembled all over. and his rage made his expression ferocious. Bai Weiwei, what happened to not having a JJ? What about a real eunuch? What was that thing in her hand? Ding! Congratulations to the host for opening the side task. Please complete the task of Mu Yanjun's JJ. The first stage of the task, to find Mu Yanjun's JJ, has been completed. Please continue to work hard. I forgot to ask, is the host willing to accept the side task? Weiwei Bai roared at the system. Who wants to take this kind of inexplicable ghost task that will definitely be beaten into a pulp? Refuse? Ding. The host refuses the task. Ding. Refuse to refute. The host has accepted the task. Come on, NWH, Weiwei Bai, this system, could it be any more shameless? Mu Yanjun's eyes constricted. His fingers slid to his waist, pulled out the dagger, and was just about to chop off her troublesome hand. Weiwei Bai's fingers may have been because of nervousness, but she couldn't help but exert force. Mu Yanjun groaned, and a strange numbness suddenly hit him. His expression changed, his eyes darkened, and a faint blush appeared on his extremely white face. The dagger in his hand hesitated and did not chop down at the first moment. Weiwei Bai had released that part of his body. Her face was ignorant of the world, as if she didn't know what she had just caught. Her expression was mournful, and her thin body was tottering, but when she looked at Mu Yanjun, her eyes were unusually clear, her posture was straight, and her elegant temperament made her inviolable. You kill me, I believe the world will give me justice. I was born pure and innocent, and I will die pure and innocent. My Bai family is not a family that you can slander and throw dirty water at. Mu Yanjun saw her making such a solemn vow, and for a moment he wondered if he had killed the wrong enemy. Weren't the people of the Bai family all greedy for life and afraid of death? Weren't they all ugly and ugly before they died? Mu Yanjun tried to calm his irritable heart. He laughed coldly, and his voice was lowered, extremely gloomy. You're too talkative. I'll cut off your mouth first. As soon as he finished speaking, he sensed that something was wrong. When he lowered his head, he saw that Weiwei Bai had already fainted on the ground. Her face was pale, her brows were furrowed, and her face was covered in sweat. It was as if his body couldn't hold on any longer. He had been holding on until he finally collapsed. Mu Yanjun only felt that he had been suppressing the resentment in his heart. Originally, he had leveled the Bai family and felt a lot more comfortable. As a result, with only half a breath left, it was unexpectedly blocked by Weiwei Bai. Not only was it blocked, but she also dug a few knives into his chest. He didn't feel the thrill of revenge at all. There was only endless grievance. This woman made him so miserable, and the result was that she said she didn't know him. Mu Yanjun reached for her, then dragged her out of the room and threw her into the corridor outside the door. It was snowing outside, and it was cold to the bone. When the people waiting outside saw Mu Yanjun, they immediately moved a chair and knelt to wait for him to sit down. Mu Yanjun said coldly, "Let me see how innocent you are. Come on, pour water on me." Full text // Download. Collections at the bottom to record the reading record. Chapter 154. Weiwei Bai was originally pretending to be unconscious. When a bucket of ice water was poured over her, the biting cold made her shiver. Her eyelids moved, and she finally woke up. She weakly lay on the ground, snowflakes flying to her body. Her eyes, soaked with ice water, carried a trace of confusion, but there was a kind of breathtaking pure beauty. Mu Yanjun stared at her, trying to find a trace of timid fear on her face. But there was none. The confusion in her eyes disappeared, and what burst out was a quenching strength. Mu Yanjun really hated this kind of strength. The more she was like this, the more she told him that his 10 years of humiliation were in vain. When this woman saw him, she did not kneel down and beg for mercy, and was extremely humble and ugly. She even dared to look so wronged. Her appearance, wasn't it a slap to his face? Wasn't it telling him that even if he was already standing at the top, in her eyes, he was still nothing? Continue to pour for me. Mu Yanjun sat, a pair of malicious eyes, fiercely staring at her face. He did not believe that such a young miss who had never suffered before would be able to withstand his punishment. Wei Wei Bai was doused with another bucket of ice water, and she shivered violently. Snowflakes flew in, and the extremely low temperature could kill her. Wei Wei Bai felt that she could ascend to heaven with one breath. She knocked on the system. I think I'm going to die. You go find the next host? System. If you beg for mercy, the male lead may not water you. Wei Wei Bai sneered. You don't understand this kind of pervert's heart. Why do you think he didn't kill me when he was -50? Isn't it because he couldn't bear to see me as pure as ice, as pure as jade, and as noble and elegant as dying? He waited for me to beg for mercy until I exploded. When I beg for mercy, he will see my ugly state and feel that I'm nothing more than that. Then he can happily chop me into minced meat. Do you believe it? System. Why does the host know so much about perverts? Wei Wei Bai. If I don't beg for mercy, I can live a little longer. The system flipped through some information. Your physical condition is enough to apply for the minimum guarantee from the system library. Ding. The host's life safety guarantee has arrived. Please accept. Wei Wei Bai accepted it, and the pain in her body disappeared. The system said, you won't feel any pain for a day. As long as it's not a fatal attack, no punishment can kill you. Wei Wei Bai shed tears of gratitude. System. After the mission is completed, 5 days of HP will be deducted. Wei Wei Bai was expressionless. Mu Yanjun looked on coldly, watching Wei Wei Bai being tortured by the ice water. But he felt like there was a thorn in his heart. Why wasn't she begging for mercy? It was fine even if there was a trace of fear on her face. Her current appearance made him look even more despicable and despicable. Another bucket of ice water was poured on her. Wei Wei Bai's eyelashes trembled, but her clear eyes were not moved at all. Mu Yanjun got up, walked over to her, and squatted down. He stretched out his slender fingers and lifted her chin. As long as you say that your Bai family is despicable, I will let you go and let you continue to be the Honorable Empress Dowager. How about that? People could still be mighty and unyielding in the face of punishment, but in the face of wealth and glory, that was not necessarily the case. Wei Wei Bai finally raised her eyes. Her eyes were like colored glass, reflecting his face. Suddenly she smiled. In this kind of snow, it was as bright as a spring flower. Mu Yanjun, I really pity you. Besides physical abuse, what else can you do? I am not afraid of death, because I am worthy of anyone. Mu Yanjun's fingertips exerted force, scratching the skin of her jaw. Beads of blood oozed out. But Wei Wei Bai was not moved at all. Look at yourself. You really look like an evil ghost. The last sentence was even worse. These days, because the new story is more difficult to write, there has been no time to take care of the comments section. I can't reply to the rewards and comments. I'm sorry. There will be time in the future to make up for it together. Thank you for your encouragement. I'm very happy. See you tomorrow night. Address of the full text: https://www.sashu.com. Download address of the mobile reading: https://m.sashu.com. Chapter 155. Mu Yanjun's heart was shaken. In her eyes, he saw his own dark face. 10 years. He had been rolling in the dark hell for 10 years. Even if he climbed up, he was not the same as he was 10 years ago. What was the difference between him and the Bai family? They were all equally ugly. Mu Yanjun pinched her chin, more forcefully. Wei Wei Bai did not even frown. Her eyes were terrifyingly calm as she looked at him, as if she could easily see through all his dirty past. Mu Yanjun felt an unspeakable disgust for these eyes. Too clean. The Bai family should not be so clean, especially this woman. She made him look like this today, but she herself was still incomparably clean. Wei Wei Bai was dizzy. The system's subsistence could only guarantee that she would not die and would not hurt, but other symptoms of weakness could not be shielded. She struggled to open her eyes, weakly reached out and grabbed his wrist, the smile on her mouth unchanged. If you want to kill me, then kill me quickly. I don't have time to chat with you. My parents are still waiting for me. Her voice was cold, soft and hoarse, and the ending raised, with a hint of coquettishness. It was as if she was not facing an executioner, but her closest lover. She was not asking for death, but she wanted a kiss. Mu Yanjun was hooked by her voice, and his ears were a little itchy. He thought of the place where she had just touched him. She did not feel that anything was wrong. Also, with the previous emperor's appearance, he could not touch her. Was that why she knew nothing? Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -45. Wei Wei Bai heard the reminder and could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. The bet was right. This man liked clean women. The temperament of a white lotus just increased her persuasiveness. So the cleaner and stronger she was, even if he hated her, his favorability would not fall to -50. The so-called white lotus, was it not just pretending to be pure? Mu Yanjun grabbed her long hair in one hand. He really could not bear to see her fearless appearance. He was just about to say a few sarcastic words, only to find that she had softly sprawled. Her face was like ice and snow, bloodless, and had already fainted. Mu Yanjun released her hair, got up and looked at her coldly. Suddenly, he turned around and saw the servant beside him carrying ice water. He walked over and grabbed the bucket of water, pouring it on Wei Wei Bai. Wei Wei Bai's eyelashes trembled. This time, she would never wake up. Mu Yanjun's eyes were filled with anger, but the corners of his mouth were smiling. Well, I'd like to see how long you can persist. He had once persevered like this, but what was the use of perseverance? In the end, he still ended up like this. Why was she special? Mu Yanjun gloomily looked at her, ignoring the peculiar fluctuations in his heart. He turned and reached out. Immediately, a chamberlain came to support him, and the people below heard Mu Yanjun's instructions. Guards, bring the Empress Dowager into the prison of the West Factory. When the others heard about the prison in the Western Factory, they couldn't help but tremble. Mu Yanjun did not look back, but his voice was gloomy. Don't let her die. Several little eunuchs immediately ran madly to find the imperial physician. Mu Yanjun said that he would not let the person die. If he really died, they did not need to live. Wei Wei Bai felt like she was rolling in fire and ice, and finally came back to life. Mu Yanjun was really ruthless. If not for the safety and security guarantee, she would have already died. The system saw that she woke up and breathed a sigh of relief. There are some things I haven't said to you. Fortunately, you woke up. Fast crossing system. Male god, you come here. /fast crossing system. Male god, you come here. /fast crossing system. Male god, you come here. Fast crossing system. Male god, you come here. Fast crossing system. Male god, you come here. Chapter 156. You can search in Baidu for Fast Transmigration System. Prince Charming, you come to search book www.sashu.com to find the Wei Wei Bai was moved. Are you going to say something worried about me? The system cleared its throat, and then, ding. The host's task is to win Mu Yanjun's love. The goal is Mu Yanjun. The completion rate is 0. Time is 6 months. Wei Wei Bai was moved, the system explained. Well, this plane's taste is a bit heavy. I was scared at first and forgot to tell you these rules. Wei Wei Bai, MDZZ. Then Wei Wei Bai had time to look around. When she looked up, she saw cockroaches and rats running around. The imperial doctor outside the cell was respectful to Mu Yanjun. The Empress Dowager is awake. There is no big problem. Mu Yanjun wiped his hands with a handkerchief. His slender and beautiful fingers showed a jade-like color under the light and shadow. His eyelids lifted slightly, and he said unhurriedly, "It's good that you won't die, go down." Then he looked at Wei Wei Bai lying weakly on the straw mat in the cell. She seemed to be still a little confused, her brows slightly wrinkled, and her delicate demeanor was clear. But when she saw clearly who was sitting outside the cell, the softness in her eyes disappeared, leaving only an indifferent calm. Mu Yanjun's fingers holding the handkerchief paused. He really hated that he could not peel the calm off her face. "The Empress Dowager, are you awake?" he asked knowingly, his indifference full of malice. Wei Wei Bai did not lift her eyes, just stared at the wall. A big rat ran past from the side, but she did not know how to be afraid. Mu Yanjun smiled gloomily. The Empress Dowager knows why the rats in this prison are so fat and tender. Wei Wei Bai did not say anything. as if Mu Yanjun was air. Because these rats grew up eating human flesh, and most of them are living human flesh. Mu Yanjun's eyes were deeper. He looked at Wei Wei Bai like he was examining her. He did not believe that this woman could be so indifferent. How many strong men had been sent into his prison? Before the torture had even reached their bodies, they had already been scared stiff by his description of the torture in just a few words. The people here are often tortured to the point where they can't get up. When the rats swarm up, they eat the people alive. The system silently covered its ears. That's so scary. I won't listen. Wei Wei Bai snorted at the system. Useless. Mu Yanjun slowly threw the handkerchief to the ground, stretched out a clean hand, and took the knife next to him. Do you know what the knife in my hand is for? Wei Wei Bai faintly glanced at him, completely without a trace of emotion, as if Mu Yanjun, in her eyes, was not even as good as air. Mu Yanjun's fingers couldn't help but pinch the knife hard. His tone was angry as he said, "This is used to cut meat, slice by slice, and then remove the bones. A living person will become a plate of meat." The system was scared out of its wits. So scary. I want to apply to leave this plane and change to a male pig. Wei Wei Bai indifferently read. Roast duck, roast chicken, braised goose, fish head, braised pork, fried pork ribs, fried shrimp, pickled bacon. I am a big foodie country. What kind of meat have I not seen? You want to scare me with human flesh? Humph. System. Fuck. I can't look straight at these delicacies in the future. Mu Yanjun pinched the knife's fingers so hard that they turned white. She did not even look at him, not even a little bit afraid. This made him anxious and irritable. Mu Yanjun got up, took the knife, and kicked open the prison door. In a flash, he came to Wei Wei Bai, and the knife stuck to her cheek. It seems that the Empress Dowager thinks that I dare not use the punishment I just mentioned on you? Wei Wei Bai looked at him indifferently. Finally, her expression fluctuated. It was contempt. Fast crossing system. Male God, you come here / fast crossing system. Male God, you come here full text / fast crossing system. Male God, you come here download txt fast crossing system. Male God, you come here the fast crossing system. Male God, you come here, comma. Chapter 157. I really have never seen a villain with such poor means. Do you think that physical torture is the most terrible means in this world? Mu Yanjun was stung by her sharp words, and the knife in his hand was unsteady, leaving a trace of blood on her snow-white cheek. Seeing the blood, his heart trembled, and his movements unconsciously slowed down. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -40. Unconsciously, he followed her rhythm, and even his killing intent towards her did not emerge as frequently as it did at the beginning. He smiled coldly, and on his beautiful and enchanting face, there was a trace of evil for no reason. Oh, I have to respectfully listen to the Empress Dowager's reprimand. If physical pain is not enough to make you frown, then what kind of punishment can move you? In that snowy field, with the ice water pouring on her, she did not even frown. In this prison full of man-eating rats, listening to his horrifying description of punishment, there was no fear. To be able to be calm to this point, she was the only one he had seen so far. Wei Wei Bai looked up at him. Her eyes were like water, but more indifferent than ice. You think that the most painful thing is turning the skin and splitting the flesh, breaking the bones, and breaking the tendons. But this is just a small trick. The real torture is to move the heart. Mu Yanjun seemed to have heard some absurd words and sneered. Move the heart? Wei Wei Bai suddenly smiled, and this smile made her very vivid. Yes, move the heart, and then mercilessly smash that heart. This trick is the world's biggest torture. You can't live, you can't die. You can only be tortured day and night, with no relief. This was the first time Mu Yanjun had heard of this kind of punishment, but after thinking about it, he felt that it was indeed true. What was more painful than crushing a person's heart? Wei Wei Bai finished saying this and tiredly closed her eyes. So you can't make me suffer, because I won't be moved by you. Mu Yanjun laughed angrily. He couldn't bear to see her indifferent attitude. He reached out and pushed her against the cold wall. He held her face in his hands, and with his cold lips, he maliciously stuck to the bloodstain on her cheek. Wei Wei Bai's entire body trembled. The calmness in her eyes shattered. She panicked and began to push him away with all her might. "Evil thief, what are you doing?" Scram. She didn't even frown when the ice-water torture was so cruel that it almost took her life. In the end, a simple kiss was enough to frighten her to this extent. Mu Yanjun caught her weakness. He didn't care about her weak resistance at all. The kiss became terrifying. He licked the wounds on her face like a gorgeous beast, his eyes full of aggression. Wei Wei Bai was even more frightened. Tears gathered in her eyes. "Don't touch me, don't touch me." Mu Yanjun's movements stopped, and she breathed a sigh of relief. He saw her relaxed expression, and the malicious smile on his mouth became more obvious. "So you are afraid of this?" Wei Wei Bai didn't open her face. Her face was pale. "You are a rebellious madman. If you want to kill me, then kill me. You can't use such a dirty method to humiliate me." These words made it clear to him that she was not afraid of torture, but of being humiliated. Mu Yanjun smiled and flipped her over to the ground. He bowed his head and captured her soft lips, violently sucking and ravaging. "What are you afraid of? What am I going to do?" Wei Wei Bai finally cried. "Let me go. You let me go." Mu Yanjun's sullen mood was finally soothed. He knew how to torture her. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -30. And read the download collections at the bottom to record the reading record. Chapter 158. Wei Wei Bai's struggle was so insignificant that Mu Yanjun easily suppressed her feeble resistance. Although Wei Wei Bai was already the Empress Dowager, she was still young when she entered the palace. She had only been the Empress Dowager for a year, and at the age of 18, she was at her most beautiful. Black hair and snow-white skin. Where his fingers passed, it was delicate and smooth to the touch. When she trembled, her eyes no longer had the righteous calmness from before. Instead, they were full of fragility and panic that he could control. Mu Yanjun lowered his eyes, and with a smile, he sarcastically said, "Isn't the Empress Dowager's mouth very good at talking? You beg for mercy and I'll listen. When I'm in a good mood, I may let go of you." Wei Wei Bai was forced into a corner by his obscene actions. Her eyes were watery, but she still stubbornly refused to say a word to beg for mercy. Mu Yanjun's fingers came to her chest, and her outer garment was stripped off by him. His fingertips pressed on the knot of the light green bodice. "If you don't beg for mercy, I'll open this knot." Wei Wei Bai's eyelashes trembled. She bit her lip, and her eyes showed a fierce struggle. In the end, she seemed to give up. Her whole body lost strength, and she leaned back, exposing her neck. It was like a sacrifice, pure and full of ignorant temptation. Mu Yanjun's throat tightened, and his eyes deepened. There was an unknown twisted pleasure that made him very happy. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -25. Wei Wei Bai moved her lips, and just when he thought she couldn't hold on and was going to beg for mercy, her voice was cold as stone. "If you want to untie it, untie it. Even if you strip me naked and throw me into the snow to be humiliated, I will not ask you for a word." Mu Yanjun's originally happy mood was ruined by her one sentence. Wei Wei Bai had restored her indifferent appearance. "Do you think that physical torture can make me yield? In your dreams." Mu Yanjun was angry. His fingers moved, and he directly opened her belly band. A large area of delicate snow-white skin was exposed. Wei Wei Bai's eyes flickered. Although she tried not to be afraid, her body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Mu Yanjun sneered, trying to suppress the strange impulse of seeing the girl's body. He gloomily said, "Then I will help you. I will strip you naked and throw you into the snow." After he finished speaking, he got up and reached out to drag her. However, he did not expect that the originally weak Wei Wei Bai would suddenly pull away from his hand and then resolutely slam into the wall of the cell. He didn't hold back at all in this charge. Running into it would result in death. Mu Yanjun was surprised by her unexpected action. He didn't even think about it. He flashed to her side, reached for her waist, and hugged her whole person. This hug was incomparably soft and fragrant, a feeling completely different from her stubborn and unyielding gaze. Mu Yanjun was absent-minded for a moment. Wei Wei Bai had already taken the opportunity to break free from his hands, and the whole person quickly fled to the corner. She reached out and hugged her messy clothes. She shrank in the corner, glaring at him with red eyes. She was wronged and helpless, but there was no sign of surrender. Mu Yanjun suddenly remembered that when he first entered the palace and was abused and bullied, he also had this attitude, refused to give in, but was covered with scars. He revealed a gloomy smile, walked up to her, bent down, and reached out to touch her face. "You want to die? I won't let you die." Wei Wei Bai suddenly grabbed his hand and bit down hard. Her teeth broke the skin on the back of his hand, and blood flowed out. Fast crossing system. Male God, you come here to read the at. https://www.sashu.com/fast crossing system. Male God, you come here to read at. https://www.sashu.com/fast crossing system. Male God, you come here to txt download at. https://www.sashu.com fast crossing system. Male God, you come here to read the at. https://m/sashu.com the fast crossing system. Male God, you come here, comma. Chapter 159. Mu Yanjun reflexively pulled back his hand, and the violent wind pushed her away. The huge force made her hit the wall, and blood flowed from her forehead. Mu Yanjun was surprised. He reached out and picked her up. His fingers touched her neck, and when he felt the familiar pulse, he breathed a sigh of relief. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -20. Outside the prison door, a little eunuch suddenly knelt and said, "Du Zhu, the emperor said he has something to tell you." Mu Yanjun held the person in his hand, and other things seemed to be unable to arouse his interest. He looked down at her. His tone was cold again. "Oh, what is the little emperor making a fuss about?" The little eunuch was respectful, he said. "If the Empress Dowager dies, he will also die." Mu Yanjun chuckled, incomparably cold. "Oh, this is all rushing to die. How come I don't know? The Bai family, the remaining two, one has more integrity than the other." The little emperor also had half the blood of the Bai family. When the little eunuch heard his laughter, he trembled all over, thinking that the Empress Dowager and the little emperor were going to die. As a result, he heard Mu Yanjun casually say, "You go and tell the little emperor, if he makes any more trouble, I will kill the Empress Dowager." The little eunuch's mouth was quick. "Don't you want to kill them now?" During this time, the people of the Bai family were almost killed by Mu Yanjun. Mu Yanjun slowly walked in front of the little eunuch. Suddenly, he lifted his foot and kicked him out. "When I want to kill people, do I need you to question it?" Wei Wei Bai felt that this plane was tormenting her to death. She was in pain all over, and in a daze, there was a broken cry in her ears. "Mother, wake up." Bai Weiwei thought someone was playing a Qing dynasty drama. She struggled to open her eyes and saw a little fatty lying next to her, crying and sobbing. "Weiwei Bai, who is this?" "System, your son." Weiwei Bai woke up with a start. When did she have a son? Little fatty saw that she had woken up and shouted, "Mother, you're alive." Weiwei Bai said weakly, "I'm not dead yet." She recalled the information and barely recognized the fat man as the 6-year-old emperor, the son of the older sister of her current body. The little fatty whined, "Mother, I'm so scared. Mu Yanjun, that dead eunuch, killed a lot of people." The system reminded her, "The male lead is outside." Little fatty rubbed his eyes. "He's just a mere eunuch. Even if he forces us to our deaths, can he still become the emperor?" Weiwei Bai had a hard time getting Mu Yanjun to change from killing her to torturing her. For little fatty to poke his sore spot like a eunuch, isn't he just asking for death? Weiwei Bai weakly stopped him. "Don't say that. At the very least, don't curse so harshly." Little fatty started crying. "Why can't I say it? She's just a lowly servant." He was so young, yet he was already so good at scolding others. He had a bright future ahead of him, but she didn't want to die with him. Was it easy for her to live until now? Wei Wei Bai thought of how she dealt with the brat in the past. Suddenly her face changed, and she said in a deep voice, "Enough, Your Majesty." Little Fatty was startled, frightened by her. Wei Wei Bai coldly said, "Even if you're an enemy, you can't open your mouth and keep insulting people. To fight, you have to fight fair and square. To die, you have to die fair and square. You scold people behind their backs. Not only do you lose your own face, but you also lower your own status." Little Fatty was silly. What happened to his mother? Didn't she love to gossip behind his back? Slash, slash, button. Chapter 160. Wei Wei Bai hated iron for not becoming steel. You have half of the Bai family's blood in you. You should have the Bai family's strength of character. Little Fatty. What is there Bai family's strength of character? Bullying people? Little Fatty said with some trepidation. Mother, whether it is the Bai family or the royal family, they have all been killed. He was small, but he was not stupid. Of course, he knew that his situation was not good. When Wei Wei Bai heard this, the tears in her eyes immediately rolled down. She held back her sobs. I know, father, mother, and brother are all dead. Little Fatty did not expect her to cry, and was at a loss for a moment. Wei Wei Bai finally broke down. She bowed her head, and tears fell down one by one. I still remember crying when father sent me to the palace. I always remember that he taught me to be humble, to treat people sincerely. Little Fatty. He remembered that his grandfather had always taught them that their family was powerful, and they did not have to be afraid of killing people. My mother told me that father had been working hard for the court, and his body was exhausted. Little Fatty. Wait, didn't his grandfather wander in the brothel? That's why his body was exhausted. My brother told me before the new year that he was going to the border to defend the city, to protect the people. Little Fatty was stunned. Wasn't his uncle the most lazy, greedy, and lecherous? He would defend the city? Wei Wei Bai cried until her voice was hoarse. But why? They all have to die. I don't know what I did wrong. Why it's not me who died. Little Fatty was moved. His greedy and cowardly mother. Was she so kind? Mu Yanjun, who was standing outside the door, also frowned slightly. Could it be that she really did not know the dirty things of the Bai family? Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -15. Little Fatty was just about to say something when the door opened. Mu Yanjun, dressed in a red and black robe, slowly walked in. He glanced faintly. Come. It's time to go to court. Invite the emperor out. Immediately, some people came in with their heads down. One person took one side and took Little Fatty out of court. Wei Wei Bai immediately struggled to get up, wanting to protect Fatty. Don't touch him. Mu Yanjun came to her side, reached out and gently pushed her back to the bed. The Empress Dowager is tired. It's time to rest. With this delay, the Little Fatty was carried out and the door closed. When Wei Wei Bai saw that the door was closed, her expression became vigilant. She immediately shrank to the corner of the bed and pulled the quilt to wrap herself tightly. Mu Yanjun saw her like this and smiled. I've touched you. Touched you. What's the use of hiding now? Wei Wei Bai remained silent. Mu Yanjun found that what he disliked the most was the way she ignored him. His voice was as cold as ice. Don't you want to see what your nephew is doing? He didn't say son, and directly said nephew. Wei Wei Bai's eyes trembled. She was no longer indifferent. Mu Yanjun smiled coldly. Suddenly, he picked her up with the quilt and went straight out. Wei Wei Bai was only wearing an undergarment and struggled in a panic. What are you doing? Mu Yanjun easily stopped her movements, going to court. By the time Wei Wei Bai realized what this sentence meant, she was already sitting on Mu Yanjun's lap, facing the civil and military ministers. Although there was a bead curtain in front of them, it was still very shameful. Mu Yanjun held her in one hand and held a memorial in the other to review. Wei Wei Bai saw some of the officials below look up at them in surprise. She couldn't help but tremble and wanted to push Mu Yanjun away. Mu Yanjun pinched her waist with his fingers, and his lips were close to her ear. He ambiguously said, Move again. I'll press you down here. Read the full text. // Download the full text. Read the full text. T. Chapter 161. Wei Wei Bai glared at him angrily, her face blushing uncontrollably. Mu Yanjun saw her misty eyes, and his incomparably sullen mood finally improved a bit. Little Fatty sat on the throne with a trembling face, like a fat quail, obediently huddled in the seat, not daring to express any opinions. Although the civil and military ministers all opened their mouths to say the emperor, this official had something to report. But the place where the memorials were sent was directly behind Little Fatty, where the beaded curtain was hung. Mu Yanjun held Wei Wei Bai, reading the memorials with one hand. This posture was more imperial than the emperor. Wei Wei Bai watched him holding the jade seal, about to stamp the imperial edict, and finally couldn't help but grab his hand. Mu Yanjun only felt the back of his hand covered by her soft fingers. There was a soft touch. But her words were not as soft and lovely as her hands. You are rebelling, Mu Yanjun. This is something that only the emperor is qualified to do. How can you be so bold? Mu Yanjun smiled coldly. Why? Is the Empress Dowager not used to seeing this? I remember when the previous emperor was not dead. These memorials were all read by your sister. Wei Wei Bai's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. No. My sister just helped the previous emperor read the memorials. How could she read them herself? The system coolly added. Your sister did read the memorials herself, and deliberately starved the previous emperor to death, so that her son could ascend, so that she could monopolize the power. Wei Wei Bai, I don't want to listen. I am a little white lotus, isolated from the world. I am pure and kind. I don't know anything. The system trembled, and goosebumps fell to the ground. Mu Yanjun grabbed her hand, and in an instant changed her position, pressing her onto the table to read the memorials. Wei Wei Bai was shocked, her voice trembling. Mu Yanjun, you stop, there are people below. Mu Yanjun enjoyed her panic. He bowed his head, his body clinging to her, his voice soft and ghostly. Isn't it better to be human? You can shout to them for help. Just say that I'm taking advantage of you, and taking advantage of you. Wei Wei Bai's voice trembled. Mu Yanjun, do you have to humiliate me like this? What did I do wrong to you? You killed my entire clan. Why didn't you kill me as well? Why do you have to torture me bit by bit? Mu Yanjun's eyes flashed with anger, and the smile at the corner of his mouth became even colder. You don't know me. I am now in this state of being neither human nor ghost, not all thanks to you. With just a word from your sister, my entire family will be exterminated. With just one word from you, not only will I not die, but I will also be humiliated and oppressed in the palace. Wei Wei Bai was so angry that she laughed. You keep saying that our Bai family is sorry for you, that I caused you to be bullied. I said I didn't know you, but you didn't listen. You've said everything, so what else do I have to say? Mu Yanjun could not bear to see her innocent appearance. His fingers gracefully twined around a strand of her long hair. Wei Wei Bai looked at him, not knowing why. The next moment, his fingers suddenly exerted force. She painfully raised her head and directly bumped into his face, touching his lips. Mu Yanjun did not expect such an accident. He only felt a warmth on his lips, and then it disappeared. Wei Wei Bai turned her head away, and her hand immediately wiped her mouth, a look of disgust. Mu Yanjun's eyes were cold, and his actions were much rougher. He grabbed her hair and forced her to look behind the beaded curtain at the civil and military ministers. Then his voice faintly sounded, Recently, the Bai family has been uprooted. In the past, the Bai family was powerful, and you were bullied but dared not speak up. Now, if you have any grievances, say it all together. The emperor will give you justice. Read at https://www.sashu.com//. Read at https://m-sashu.com. Chapter 162. Little Fat Quail trembled. He could not even make a decision for himself, let alone for others. Mu Yanjun's words fell. A civil official cried, Emperor, you have to make a decision for this official. The Bai family is full of evil, that Bai Zhaoqiang married my 18th concubine and did not give a betrothal gift. Wei Wei Bai, another official cried. Emperor, the Bai family is not human. They are officials and do not take the exam. Wei Wei Bai, yes, not only do they not take the exam, they don't pay for their meals, they don't pay for their lives, they don't pay for their debts, and when they go whoring they want the procuress to pay for their food. Is there any justice in this? Wei Wei Bai was speechless for a moment, then knocked on the system. What to do? I can't play the role of the pure and innocent poor little white lotus. Do these clowns want to make me laugh? System. Come, I'll tell you a joke. Wei Wei Bai. Get lost. The civil and military ministers wept as they counted the crimes of the Bai family. Wei Wei Bai's eyes began to dim. Her original struggling movements, with the voice accusing the Bai family, softened. The twisted malice in Mu Yanjun's heart was satisfied as the light in her eyes dimmed. He was like a demon, sticking to her body, faintly saying, You see, what is the Bai family? Your so-called family of martyrs is nothing more than self-deception. Wei Wei Bai trembled all over. She weakly retorted, Don't say it. Mu Yanjun was even more pleased, breaking her insistence. He felt comfortable all over. You listen, you think of a loyal father, is a traitor who has killed countless people. Wei Wei Bai trembled even more. She desperately struggled. Don't say it again. And your good brother? He is an ignorant and incompetent villain who only knows how to bully men and women. The last glimmer of hope in Wei Wei Bai's eyes was finally completely extinguished. She sadly said to herself, I don't believe it, this is not true. Mu Yanjun's evil smile deepened. You're Bai family, there is not a single good person. Bai Wei Wei collapsed. She fiercely pushed him away, and her hand slapped Mu Yanjun's face. But Mu Yanjun's speed was faster than hers. His movements were nimble, and he grabbed her wrist with enough force to break it. He thought that Wei Wei Bai would be in great pain with this kind of strength. However, Wei Wei Bai did not cry out in pain at all. Instead, she glared at him with reddened eyes. Mu Yanjun originally wanted to say something to attack her, but before the words came out, he was stunned. Tears rolled down her cheeks, and her eyes were filled with fragile pain. It was as if she would completely collapse if he said anything more. Mu Yanjun's sense of pleasure faded away, but he did not know why he was a little more irritated. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -10. Wei Wei Bai's face was full of tears. She fiercely pulled her hand back and suddenly raised her foot to rush out. She was not wearing a robe, but she was wearing trousers and clothes underneath. For Wei Wei Bai, there was no problem wearing this everywhere, and there was no exposed skin. But before she could run a few steps, a huge force caught her, and a pair of strong arms firmly locked her body. Running out like this, are you going to let everyone see your body? Mu Yanjun was full of anger. In his view, running out dressed like this was almost the same as not wearing any clothes. Wei Wei Bai, with tears, sneered, Isn't this what you want to see? I will do as you wish. Mu Yanjun was speechless for a moment. Indeed, he carried her to court with the intention of insulting her. Wei Wei Bai looked at him with disgust. Mu Yanjun, Wei Wei Bai, have never hated anyone in my life. You're the first person I've ever hated. Full text // Download. The D. Chapter 163. This sentence made Mu Yanjun's heart tremble. For a moment, he felt very angry. She hated him? What qualifications did she have to hate him? He was treating her like this now. This woman asked for it, didn't she? Mu Yanjun's face was gloomy, his eyes were cold, and his expression was even somewhat ferocious. Hate me? You're Bai family. Who in the world does not hate you? I eradicated the Bai family, who did not applaud. Where did you get the face to hate me? Wei Wei Bai suffered a heavy blow, her body tottering. Suddenly, she reached out to cover her mouth, her body trembling violently. Mu Yanjun's nose suddenly smelled a trace of blood. His face changed, and he immediately grabbed her hand, covering her mouth. Her hand was full of blood. Wei Wei Bai coughed again, blood oozing from her mouth. She was in so much pain, but she still stubbornly refused to make a sound. Mu Yanjun's heart was disturbed, and he picked her up. He grabbed the black robe he put aside, draped it over her body, and immediately rushed out. Call the imperial physician. Even he did not realize how anxious and flustered his voice was. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -5. The Empress Dowager is angry and previously caught a cold. Her body is not well, so she coughs up blood. The imperial physician respectfully bowed his head and said to Mu Yanjun, "This coughing up blood must be well taken care of, otherwise it will worsen." "Maybe," Mu Yanjun looked at him coldly, "can't be treated?" The imperial physician said with some fear, "This is mainly based on health care. Can't be tired, can't hurt the spirit." This illness was caused by anger. Mu Yanjun slowly walked to the bedside and coldly said to the imperial physician, "Go down." The imperial physician withdrew in fear and trepidation. As soon as the imperial physician went out, the little apprentice of the imperial physician came to pick up the medicine box. The imperial physician thought of the way Mu Yanjun looked at Wei Bai. He was old and experienced a lot. Of course, he could see the possessiveness in that evil spirit's eyes. That was the way a man looked at a woman. Even if she was in dire straits, she was still the Empress Dowager. The imperial physician sighed. "What a sin. Let's go. The world is about to change." After the doctor went out, Mu Yanjun reached out and lifted Wei Bai's chin, forcing her to look at him. Wei Bai slapped his hand away and turned her face away, refusing to look at him. Mu Yanjun thought of how she had just vomited blood, and his irritable mood lingered. "What? You can't stand the truth? Then how are you going to endure my next torture?" Wei Bai remained silent. Mu Yanjun saw her like this and sneered. "You don't even need to be tempted to torture a person to the point that they wish they were dead. As long as I ruthlessly shatter the things that you insist on believing in, you will be in unbearable pain." She was not afraid of physical torture. Then, he would force her to see clearly what the Bai family was. Wei Bai lazily looked up at him, her eyes dull. She didn't say anything. She turned her face away and remained silent. Mu Yanjun tried to pull her face. Why wouldn't she look at him? Wei Bai did not have as much strength as him. She could only follow him and turn her face to him. But this time she lowered her eyes, and there was no shadow of him in her eyes. Mu Yanjun hit her sense of achievement at the beginning and was sullen by her half-dead appearance. Wei Bai suddenly smiled coldly. "What other means do you want to use to torture me?" Mu Yanjun saw that because of her anger, her pale face was dyed with a few traces of red. It was unspeakably beautiful. His mood couldn't help but improve a little. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at -0. 0 system. That historical record of -50 is gone just like that. The tornado came too quickly, just like that love. 1 second it was life and death, the next second it was flirting. Really, his uncle's eyes burned. Chapter 164. Mu Yanjun's fingers rubbed her cheeks, making her face more flushed. "More beautiful," he said slowly. "There are many means, so many that you can't afford it." Wei Bai stared at him, then suddenly coughed again. A mouthful of blood came out. Wei Bai asked the system, "Is it really okay for me to vomit blood like this?" The system shook its head. "There is no problem. After 6 months, your body will die because of this hemoptysis. So there is no problem at all. Wei Bai, it's over after 6 months, and I started coughing blood today. Is this not deliberately tormenting me?" Mu Yanjun saw his fingers splashed with her blood and trembled slightly. He gritted his teeth. "I haven't tortured you enough. You want to die early." Wei Bai looked at him without love. The doctor came again, but Wei Bai's situation was not very good. She did not drink medicine, did not eat, deliberately starving herself to death. Mu Yanjun was angry and threatened her with the little emperor. She vomited blood. Forcing her to eat, she vomited what she ate. Mu Yanjun looked at her gloomily. "Wei Bai, I won't let you die. You really can't die." After that, Mu Yanjun went out. Wei Bai's face was like dead ashes. 0. I'm hungry. To pretend to be an unyielding white lotus, she really risked her life. But looking at 0's favorability, she felt that she would never be able to brush up enough favorability. In other planes, she brushed up 50 favorability and the task was almost half done. In this plane, brushing up 50 favorability had just reached 0. Despair. System. Don't you want to go on a hunger strike? Of course you will be hungry. Wei Wei Bai was sad. I'm so hungry. Talk to me and distract me. The system cleared its throat. Sweet and sour pork ribs, braised pork, rice, fried prawns, green pepper, shredded pork, spicy tofu, Chongqing hot pot. The hungrier Wei Wei Bai. Just as Wei Wei Bai was about to ascend to heaven from hunger, a strange sound suddenly came from outside. The people guarding the door suddenly fell to the ground. Wei Wei Bai lay on the bed weakly as she watched the door open. A young girl with a high ponytail and dressed in men's clothes fell to her knees in front of Wei Wei Bai. Empress Dowager, this servant has come to save you. Wei Wei Bai, who is this? The system added an explanation. This is the previous servant of the Bai family, called Xiao Mo, but this guy is a spy on Mu Yanjun's side. The Bai family declined so quickly. She has a part to play. Wei Wei Bai asked, is she close to me? The system replied, no, her main job is to monitor the other members of the Bai family. The original owner was too weak, so no one studied her. Wei Wei Bai, how weak was the original owner? The system continued, and after your arrival, the system is obligated to help you blur the original owner's image. Unless it's a very familiar person, the average person will not have an impression of you. Wei Wei Bai, last time it was emotional stripping. This time it's blurring the image. What is this broken system hiding from me? Wei Wei Bai looked at Xiao Mo. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Xiao Mo, are you okay? Xiao Mo looked surprised. She thought that Wei Wei Bai did not remember her. After all, she had only seen her twice. But it was better to remember. It was better to complete the Du Zhu's task. Xiao Mo said, this servant escaped the pursuit of the Mu family, so I came to save you. This servant has overstepped. After Xiao Mo finished speaking, she rushed to the bedside and easily picked up by Wei Wei. This strong and powerful girl. Then she carried Wei Wei Bai all the way out. Someone had already come to meet them. It was a carriage. The Chapter 165. Wei Wei Bai, 0. Do I look so mentally retarded? In the case of Mu Yanjun covering the sky with one hand, there was still someone who could swagger a carriage to send her out of the palace? Wasn't this clearly a scam? System. Oh, aren't you playing the poor little White Lotus? Delicate and pitiful and saintly, I don't listen to evil things. What's the difference between this and mental retardation? Wei Wei Bai was put into the carriage, and Xiao Mo drove the carriage all the way out. Along the way, several people pretended to stop them, but they were all solved by Xiao Mo smoothly out of the palace. They ran all the way to a remote mountain road. Wei Wei Bai was shaken by the bumpy carriage, and several times she wanted to stop the carriage, but then she thought of her hard-working persona, so she could only endure. The carriage finally stopped in an open space on the edge of the cliff. Xiao Mo breathed a sigh of relief, and then opened the carriage curtain, wanting to say something to Wei Wei Bai. As a result, Wei Wei Bai weakly leaned against the carriage, reaching out to cover her mouth. Xiao Mo was shocked. Empress Dowager, are you ill? Wei Wei Bai shook her head. She was carsick. Xiao Mo thought she was going to cough up blood again, and immediately took out a medicine bottle from her arms. This was given to her by the Du Zhu, and it was full of life-saving medicines. One was enough to hang on to the life of a dying person. It was actually a waste to treat Wei Wei Bai's hemoptysis. Xiao Mo said, Empress Dowager, this servant has offended you. With that, she took Wei Wei Bai into her arms and stuffed the medicine bowl into her mouth. Wei Wei Bai gulped it down. She couldn't taste anything, but her symptoms of seasickness were much better. She looked at Xiao Mo with soft eyes. Xiao Mo, thank you. Xiao Mo was stunned. She didn't expect her to thank her for a little servant. She was a little embarrassed and turned her face away. This is what this servant should do. Wei Wei Bai said softly, you're my savior. I won't treat you badly. Bubbly Foam lowered her head and was about to compliment him insincerely. Wei Wei Bai had already reached out to grab her and said pitifully, so, can you give me some food? She was hungry. Bubbly Foam was indeed well prepared. There were all kinds of delicacies and pastries hidden in the corner of the carriage. Wei Wei Bai was finally in the mood to analyze the situation with the system. I reckon I'm just a piece of meat now. The system sized her up from head to toe. You're just a piece of rib at best. Wei Wei Bai, no. I mean, although the Bai family has almost been eradicated, the people who were forced into a dead end by Mu Yanjun will definitely fight back. The system was neither salty nor light. Oh, Wei Wei Bai's face was deep. Mu Yanjun. To find out these people who oppose him, I am the best bait. When I leave the palace, those who oppose Mu Yanjun will definitely come to snatch me. Unable to snatch the emperor, snatching the Empress Dowager was also very helpful to the opposition forces. System. Wei Wei Bai continued her analysis. At that time, Mu Yanjun will come out and wipe out the remaining opposition forces in one fell swoop. The system coldly complimented. You're the smartest, haha. Wei Wei Bai, you really know me? System. When Xiao Mo saw that Wei Wei Bai was full, she immediately took out the tea jar and tea set and began to make tea with a small stove. Wei Wei Bai was speechless. Were they running for their lives, or were they traveling? It was getting late. The sun was setting on the other side of the mountain. The setting clouds were gorgeous. Wei Wei Bai held the tea and stared at the sunset, her eyes a little sad. She suddenly whispered, Xiao Mo, do you remember that I've seen Mu Yanjun before? Chapter 166. Xiao Mo was puzzled. Empress Dowager, have you never seen Mu Yanjun before? Wei Wei Bai frowned and struggled to recall. He said that I caused him to become like this, but I have never harmed anyone in my life, and I have no impression of him. Xiao Mo was even more puzzled. The people on their side all knew that it was Wei Wei Bai's words that turned Mu Yanjun into a eunuch. But Bai Wei Wei obviously had never seen Mu Yanjun's appearance. Xiao Mo's heart flashed many thoughts, and finally she couldn't help but say, it is said that 10 years ago, the Empress Dowager passed by the place where the Mu family was beheaded and saw Mu Yanjun. She said that he looked like a delicate girl and hoped that he would enter the palace to help you raise flowers. Wei Wei Bai looked at Xiao Mo blankly. 10 years ago. Xiao Mo nodded. Later, he was spared from death and entered the palace as a little eunuch. Wei Wei Bai was a little shocked, I remember. My father told me at the time that the Mu family was guilty of heinous crimes and even wanted to rebel, so the whole family was to be beheaded. Xiao Mo trembled, and she couldn't help but look at the woods not far away. Then she argued, Empress Dowager, the Mu family did not rebel at that time. They were wronged. Wei Wei Bai, this spy is so obvious. Xiao Mo said, and after Mu Yanjun entered the palace, because of the identity of the guilty slave, he was bullied and humiliated. Once, he was injured on a snowy day and almost froze to death in the snow. Wei Wei Bai, can you be more obvious? Spy. The system reminded. The male lead has been following you, and now he is watching you in the woods next to you. Maybe this spy is worried that she will be deducted from her salary for speaking ill of him. Wei Wei Bai. So that's how it is. Xiao Mo wanted to continue, but suddenly found that Wei Wei Bai's face was full of tears. Xiao Mo was surprised. Empress Dowager, what's wrong with you? Wei Wei Bai took out a handkerchief and gracefully wiped her face, her eyes sad. I remember now. Because it's been so long, I actually forgot about that matter. Wei Wei Bai sighed softly. At that time, my father kept telling me that the Mu family was guilty of a great crime. If they were not eradicated, they would endanger the emperor. He had no choice but to raise the butcher knife. When she said this, the sadness in her eyes intensified. At that time, I happened to pass by the place where the Mu family was beheaded. I saw a child kneeling, waiting for the executioner to execute him. At that time, I was young and didn't know much. He felt that the child was very pitiful, so he couldn't help but tell the people next to him that the girl was very pretty, just like a pot of peony that I was raising in the palace. Wei Wei Bai lowered her head with a sorrowful expression. So, I was the one who harmed him? I didn't know that he was a boy, and I didn't know that my casual words would cause him to be bullied in the palace. Bubbly Foam had a look of understanding. So that was the case. After all, No one had personally heard Wei Wei Bai say that she was going to send the superintendent to the palace to be a eunuch. Perhaps her words were distorted by the servants, which caused the superintendent to become like this. So, Wei Wei Bai was innocent? And Wei Wei Bai started to tremble. My Bai family is the one who committed the greatest crime? When Bubbly Foam saw her like this, she couldn't bear to see her like this. But she still nodded. The Bai family did a lot of evil things. Wei Wei Bai looked up at her. The despair in her eyes was moving. She laughed. So that's how it is. The family that I thought was loyal and good was just a beautiful dream that my parents and brother made up for me. The download the at https://m/sashu.com button at the bottom to record this chapter. Chapter 167. With that, she clutched her chest, and a mouthful of blood overflowed from the corner of her mouth. She looked completely disheartened. Xiaomo was shocked. She immediately took out the medicine bottle, poured out the life-saving medicine, and stuffed it into Wei Wei Bai's mouth. Empress Dowager, you can't be sad. Wei Wei Bai smiled sadly. My Bai family was killed. I can't blame anyone. It's all my own fault. Why am I the only one who can't die? I made him like this. He should have killed me long ago. Xiaomo was worried that she was overly grieved, and her body couldn't stand it. If the Duzhu were to blame, no one would be able to escape. She quickly said, "Let's go, Empress Dowager. If we delay too long, they will catch up." Wei Wei Bai got into the carriage in a trance. When the carriage started to move, she suddenly said, "Let's go back to the palace." Xiaomo looked puzzled. Wei Wei Bai showed a tired smile. "Let's go back. If our Bai family really killed a lot of people, I feel that I should also pay for those innocent people." Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 5. Wei Wei Bai's tears flowed. The favorability finally came. It finally broke through the 0 mark. Xiaomo saw her crying, and for the first time realized that she had made a mistake. Perhaps she shouldn't have been so anxious to test Wei Wei Bai, letting her see how unbearable the Bai family was. The Bai family may be filthy, but who says that in this filthy place, there won't be people who are untainted by the mud? Xiaomo was just about to comfort her. Suddenly, her ears moved. There was movement. She reached out and immediately pulled out her sword, and a hidden arrow was deflected by her. Xiaomo sneered. "What kind of scoundrel are you? Sneaking around and not daring to come out and see your great aunt?" As soon as she finished speaking, dozens of ghostly shadows suddenly appeared, surrounding the carriage. It was the group of people who opposed Mu Yanjun. They wore black clothes and masks, and they pulled out their swords and rushed toward Xiaomo. Xiaomo was fierce. Bullying a woman? Sure enough, you are a scoundrel. After saying that, she jumped off the carriage. Her left hand touched the sword in her right hand, and the sword split into 2. She held the 2 swords in her hands and aggressively confronted those people. "Wei Wei Bai, this girl is too cruel." The system said, if it's a man, he'll definitely be the male lead. Wei Wei Bai sat in the carriage and chatted with the system. That person's knife skills were not bad, and that person's hidden weapon skills were clearly of high standard. The most powerful one was Bubbly Foam. She used her 2 swords to fly up and down, forcibly protecting the carriage. One man guarding the pass, 10,000 could not get through. After Wei Wei Bai finished the snacks and watched enough juggling, she finally got down to business. She weakly and sorrowfully threw herself at the door of the carriage. Half of her body was out of the carriage. "Xiaomo, don't worry about me. Hurry up and leave." Bubbly Foam turned around, looking touched. Wei Wei Bai was actually so kind. At such a dangerous time, she was still worried about her. While Bubbly Foam was distracted, an arrow suddenly pierced through her defense and directly attacked Wei Wei Bai. Wei Wei Bai widened her eyes. She did not have martial arts, so she could not dodge it. At this critical moment, a stone flew through the air and collided with the sharp arrow. The arrow changed direction and pierced into the side of the carriage door. Wei Wei Bai was so scared that she broke out in cold sweat. Before she could calm down, the sky suddenly became densely packed. What was this? Wei Wei Bai looked up blankly. There were at least a few hundred arrows flying towards the carriage. Wei Wei Bai, Lingling, Give me a protective condom. The system. This thing can't be bought on credit. You are too poor. Wei Wei Bai was shocked. Was there any host in history who was as poor as her? Just when Wei Wei Bai thought she was doomed, the sound of horse hooves suddenly came. A figure riding a black horse was as fast as lightning, and like a storm, rushed into the rain of arrows. Download the at https://m.com button at the bottom to record this chapter. Chapter 168. His hand touched his waist, and the dagger came out. Every arrow that touched him was deflected by him. In a blink of an eye, he came to the carriage. An arrow was about to hit him between his eyebrows. His fingers immediately pinched the tip of the arrow and threw it away, and extended his fingers to flick another arrow. This series of actions was very neat. The rain of arrows could not do anything to him. Wei Wei Bai stared at him, and could not help but whisper, "Mu Yanjun?" Mu Yanjun sat on the horse and did not look back. He just said lightly, "Where is the Empress Dowager going?" "It's late. This official has come to take you back to the palace." Wei Wei Bai pursed her lips and was silent. Mu Yanjun was angry. This anger had been in his heart since she left the palace so easily. She followed others without the slightest doubt. As soon as she left the palace, she was willing to eat. Was she that eager to run away from him? As soon as the rain of arrows passed, Mu Yanjun's ambushers rushed out and fought with the group of attackers. Mu Yanjun turned around and saw Wei Wei Bai leaning against the carriage door. Her face was a little pale, and the sadness in her eyes had not been put away. Mu Yanjun's eyes were terrifyingly cold, and he laughed sarcastically. "Do you think you can escape?" Wei Wei Bai looked a little dazed. "I didn't want to escape," Mu Yanjun said coldly. "I saw you leaving the palace, but you were very happy. I don't know what that little emperor will feel when he hears that you abandoned him and ran away." Wei Wei Bai's eyes flashed a trace of helplessness and full of self-blame. She was just about to say something, but found herself farther and farther away from Mu Yanjun. Mu Yanjun's expression changed. Wei Wei Bai's carriage was out of control. The horse pulling the carriage did not know what frightened it, but it suddenly rushed forward. In front of them was a cliff. Even if the person and the carriage went down, it was impossible to survive. Mu Yanjun panicked, and there was no time to think about it. He immediately rode his horse and chased after her. Wei Wei Bai was frightened for a few seconds, but soon, she realized that she would fall off the cliff, and her face was calm. Mu Yanjun immediately knew what she was thinking. She wanted to die. Yes, ever since she met him, she had been seeking death. The cowardice of the Bai family, their greed for life and fear of death. Why didn't she get involved with them at all? If she looked like a member of the Bai family, would he not feel so conflicted? The moment the carriage fell off the cliff, Mu Yanjun's heart was in his throat. He watched helplessly as Bai Wei Wei fell, and his mind went blank. He didn't even think about it. He jumped down from the black horse and pulled out his belt, fiercely wrapping it around the falling Wei Wei Bai. The belt sank, and Mu Yanjun, who was in midair, had no place to borrow strength and was brought down. He accelerated his descent and arrived in front of Wei Wei Bai in the blink of an eye. Wei Wei Bai exclaimed, "Mu Yanjun, you're crazy." Mu Yanjun reached out and grabbed her waist, locking her in his arms. He laughed coldly. "I am crazy. I'm here to collect my debt from you like a madman. You owe me too much. Without my permission, even if you run to hell, I will chase after you." The two of them fell off the cliff and disappeared into the white mist. Xiaomo knelt at the edge of the cliff and shouted, "Du Zhu, Empress Dowager." After she finished shouting, she quickly ordered the people around her. 2 people go back to get reinforcements. 30% of the people go chase the remaining rebel forces and destroy the other's nest. The rest of you, go down the cliff and find people. Below the cliff, Wei Wei Bai had just climbed out of the water. She coughed until her face was red. The cliff looked high, but there was a place to borrow strength. She and Mu Yanjun fell into the pool, and she was safe because of Mu Yanjun's protection. What about Mu Yanjun? She looked around and saw Mu Yanjun half lying on the edge of the water. His long hair was scattered, revealing half of his delicate face. He had already fainted. Fast crossing system. Prince Charming, you come here. Slash fast crossing system. Prince Charming, you come here. Full text fast crossing system. Prince Charming, you come here. Download fast crossing system. Prince Charming, you come here. Fast crossing system. Prince Charming, you come here. Chapter 169. Wei Wei by coughed twice. Her whole body was weak and powerless. Soaking in the water in this kind of weather, a weak body would soon get sick. She laboriously came to Mu Yanjun's side and found that his brow was wrinkled, and his face was terribly white. Was he injured? Wei Wei Bai saw that on the clear water there were traces of blood. She observed and found that his leg should have been injured, the wound oozing blood. Wei Wei Bai rolled up her sleeves, took a few deep breaths, and then used all her strength to drag Mu Yanjun to the shore. With great difficulty, she dragged him to the grass on the shore. Wei Wei Bai felt that she only had one breath left. Mu Yanjun, this guy, how could he be so heavy? The system reminded her. Just wait like this. The people on the cliff will soon find you. Wei Wei Bai had already relaxed, but as soon as she heard the system's words, not to mention the strength of drinking milk, even the power of the great desolation broke out. She dragged Mu Yanjun away from the pool, all the way into the woods, and finally found a cave to drag him in. The system was stunned. This strength, too terrible. Wei Wei Bai saw that Mu Yanjun had fainted and ran out to clean up the traces of the two people. The system was baffled as it watched her busying herself. With great difficulty, Wei Wei Bai returned to the cave and spat out a mouthful of old blood. Wei Wei Bai covered her mouth. This broken body. System. If you wait by the water, won't you be saved soon? Wei Wei Bai coldly hummed. The one who will be saved is Mu Yanjun. If he is saved, how can I fish for favorability? Pure system. Question mark. Wei Wei Bai disdained. Different IQs can't communicate. The disdain system felt that it had suffered serious mental damage. Wei Wei Bai came to Mu Yanjun's side and began to do a simple treatment for his wound. She used a sharp stone to tear off a piece of her skirt. Then, she turned it into a piece of cloth and bandaged his wound. Although the bleeding had stopped, the weather was too cold. Their clothes were soaked in water. If they didn't keep warm and stayed in the cave overnight, the two of them would probably freeze to death. Wei Wei Bai saw that Mu Yanjun's face began to turn green. This is a symptom of excessive cold. She couldn't help it. She could only accept her fate and collect firewood. From Mu Yanjun's sleeve pocket, she found a flint and started a bonfire. But this was not the solution. Wei Wei Bai herself was also cold to the point that her lips were white and her face was blue. Wei Wei Bai, Lingling, give me a one-button drying function. The system was expressionless. There's no such thing. Even if there was, you wouldn't be able to afford it. Bai Wei Wei's heart was sad. How can you bear to watch your family's willow and beautiful host freeze to death like this? System. His face is so thick that even an awl can't penetrate it. Wei Wei Bai, Lingling Alp 4 baby, the system couldn't bear it anymore. Well, don't you know how to use other methods? If the clothes are wet, just take them off and dry them with the fire. Wei Wei Bai thought about it, blushed, and hesitated for a while before she resolutely said, forget it. For the sake of favorability, I'll sacrifice it. System. Question mark. Wei Wei Bai reached out and stripped Mu Yanjun. Her eyes accidentally glanced at his lower body and immediately turned away, worried about her eyes. She quickly took off her clothes and then grabbed a pile of dry grass to cover the two of them. When it was almost done, Wei Wei Bai reached out and slowly touched his body. Naked, strong, full of explosive muscle lines. Wei Wei Bai blushed and then resolutely hugged him. This was the right way to warm up. Collection at the bottom to record the reading record. Chapter 170. Mu Yanjun felt cold. Was it snowing? Vaguely, he seemed to have returned to the time when he had just entered the palace. His family died tragically, and he was sent to the palace. The old eunuch who castrated him happened to be a good person. His parents had been kind to him. The old eunuch had never forgotten. Seeing that it was him, the old eunuch did not castrate him. Because he was the only one left in the Mu family, if he became a eunuch, the Mu family would truly be extinct. He still remembered lying in the eunuch's room after he was castrated. The castrated children were moaning in agony. Some died, and the death was horrible. The year he entered the palace was the year of the heaviest snow. He was a guilty slave who could be bullied by anyone, and the dirtiest and most tiring work was done by him. Bastard. Still not kneeling down to lick your grandfather's shoes? He refused to kneel, and was punished by the palace's great eunuch to kneel in the snow, kneeling for a whole day. Very cold. Cold to the bone. Cold to the bone. Cold to the heat of his heart and lungs. He swore, if he was allowed to survive these debts, he would repay them one by one. Cold. Mu Yanjun whispered. Wei Wei Bai was also cold, so she hugged him harder and rubbed against him. She still understood the principle of heat from friction. In the extreme cold, Mu Yanjun suddenly felt a warm fragrance surrounding him. Vaguely, there seemed to be a soft and cherishing embrace. This feeling pulled him out of the nightmare of ice and snow. So warm. Mu Yanjun sighed comfortably. He couldn't help but rub against her, wanting to be closer to the other's smooth and warm body. The other seemed to be a little scared, trembling, wanting to leave. Mu Yanjun's heart was anxious, and he reached out to hold her. Not allowed to go, he fiercely ordered in his heart. Wei Wei Bai was hugged by Mu Yanjun and was almost strangled to death by him. She quickly began to struggle and push him away. This man's arm strength was too amazing. If she did not struggle, her waist would break. The dizzy Mu Yanjun thought that the warmth that took him away from hell was leaving him. His movements were urgent, and he took the initiative, trapping Bai Weiwei's entire body under his own. The two of them lay naked on top of each other. Under the light of the fire, their shadows intertwined in an ambiguous position. Wei Wei Bai was shocked. She just wanted to give him some warmth. It didn't mean that she was going to give herself to him. But Mu Yanjun did not give her any chance to struggle. His lips brushed against hers, and he was dazed for a moment. Soft and fragrant, he couldn't help but inhale deeply. Wei Wei Bai trembled and reached out to push him away. However, her hand was grabbed by him, and there was no room for her to struggle. Mu Yanjun, stop. Mu Yanjun vaguely heard the sound of the girl crying in a low voice, unspeakably pitiful. He was shocked, and when he opened his eyes, he saw a scene that took his breath away. Wei Wei Bai lay naked under his body. Her snow-white body was delicate and fragile beyond compare. Her hands were held by him, and she was powerless to escape his ravaging. She could only cry helplessly, beautiful but pitiful. When Wei Wei Bai saw him wake up, she cried even harder. You let go of me, you let go. Mu Yanjun's heart was stung. He found that both of them were naked, but he was doing something to her that was worse than a beast. His fingers couldn't help but loosen. Wei Wei Bai immediately broke free and swung her hand to give him a slap. Mu Yanjun silently endured the slap. Wei Wei Bai glared at him fiercely. Get lost. Mu Yanjun was silent for a moment before he released her and sat up. Fast crossing system. Man God, come here. 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 Collect button below to record this reading record. The fast crossing system. Man God, come here, comma. Chapter 171. Wei Wei Bai was so scared that she shivered and crawled out from under his body. Her hands crossed over her chest and hugged herself pitifully. You turn around. Mu Yanjun saw her long hair draped over her incomparably white body, with a kind of pure and unconscious seduction. His throat tightened, and there was an inexplicable impulse in his heart, strange and addicting. Wei Wei Bai saw his burning eyes looking at her and couldn't help but angrily rebuke. Mu Yanjun, haven't you humiliated me enough? Mu Yanjun realized how presumptuous his eyes were. He could be more presumptuous, but facing Wei Wei Bai's stubborn and helpless eyes, he obediently turned around. Wei Wei Bai saw him turn around, and while sobbing, she took the clothes that were drying by the fire and put them on. But she didn't know that Mu Yanjun was staring at the shadow of the cave. It reflected Wei Wei Bai's movements as she put on her clothes. It was obviously not enchanting, nor was it deliberately seducing people, but it made his eyes more and more profound, and the strange restlessness in his heart became more and more intense. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 10. Wei Wei Bai put on her clothes and pushed Mu Yanjun's clothes to his side. Then she turned her back and said coldly, "You put it on. Just now we both entered the water, and I was worried that the temperature would be too low at night and you would get frostbite, so I had no choice but to hold you for warmth." Mu Yanjun's hand picked up the clothes. The Empress Dowager. "This is saving me?" Wei Wei Bai was silent. She looked at the bonfire and said coldly, "I still hate you, but it was our Bai family that killed your family, and it was me who made you like this. I saved you as a way of repaying you with a life." When she said this, she couldn't help but smile sadly. "You also slaughtered my Bai family, so it's an eye for an eye. I think you should not owe you anything." Mu Yanjun put on his clothes and looked up to see her side profile, looking very sad. He pursed his lips. "I thought you hated me enough to kill me." It was such a good opportunity just now, but she saved him. This woman did not look like a member of the Bai family at all. Even that little fatty emperor had a lot of thoughts despite his young age. As for Wei Wei Bai, why wasn't she ruthless and cunning at all? Wei Wei Bai heard his words and looked up at him, her eyes full of anger. "I do hate you, because in my eyes, you are the executioner who killed my family." Mu Yanjun's expression was gloomy. He did not like her eyes very much, cold and ruthless. Wei Wei Bai sighed again. "But you were indeed harmed by us, so I couldn't bear to do it." Mu Yanjun looked at her coldly. "That's it?" Wei Wei Bai was confused.
Yes.
What else did he want? Mu Yanjun chuckled softly. There was no sense of pleasure in the laughter, but it made people's hair stand on end. "I thought you." He thought that she had different feelings for him. Only then would he be willing to save him. However, this woman was still very righteous. He had been in hell for a long time, and he couldn't get used to this woman's eternally pure appearance, because it would make him feel that he could never touch her. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 15. Wei Wei Bai expressed her delight at this increase in favorability. As a result, just as she finished rejoicing, Mu Yanjun still grabbed her and locked her in his arms. His treacherous and evil face was filled with malice and viciousness. "You saved me once, and you're so clean. You don't owe me." Is the next sentence going to leave here and then find a broken temple to spend the rest of your life? / The Chapter 172. Wei Wei Bai wanted to shake her head, but because of her character setting, shaking her head was not in line with her character. For a moment, her tangled appearance made Mu Yanjun misunderstand that she really thought so. Mu Yanjun's fingers stroked her beautiful face. "Really naive. Do you think you can still live if you leave me now?" Wei Wei Bai was angered by his insulting actions, and she glared at him. "That's enough. Aren't you the one who wants to kill me?" Mu Yanjun's movements paused, and then he laughed. He was good-looking, and when he deliberately smiled seductively, he could simply turn all living things upside down. Wei Wei Bai was amazed by him, but this amazement was only for a moment, and then her eyes returned to calmness. Mu Yanjun suddenly asked in a deep voice, "Am I good-looking?" Wei Wei Bai, "Good-looking, not as good-looking as me." Of course, she certainly did not dare to answer that, and could only frown. "Why do you ask this?" Mu Yanjun bowed his head, ambiguously approaching her, and his breath blew on her face. "Do you know how many filthy people there are in the palace? I was too good-looking. So at that time there was a perverted eunuch who wanted to insult me." Wei Wei Bai's pupil shrank. She could not believe it. Mu Yanjun saw her expression and felt that he was staining her black. She was so pure and ignorant of the world, and he was like a demon, stubbornly dragging her down to hell. Wei Wei Bai was really shocked when she heard Mu Yanjun's words. She asked the system, "Can eunuchs insult people? How do they insult? Is there no JJ?" The system sneered. "Even if there is no such thing, there are still cucumbers, eggplants, wooden sticks, jade Trojans, and so on." Wei Wei Bai, perverts really know how to play. Mu Yanjun's fingers stroked her eyes. "Don't be afraid. I killed that old pervert and threw him into the well. No one will find out that I did it." Wei Wei Bai's face was pale, and there was even a trembling pity in her eyes. I didn't think you would encounter this. Mu Yanjun saw her pity. Don't you feel disgusted? Wei Wei Bai hesitated for a moment before saying, but it's not your fault. It wasn't his fault. Mu Yanjun lowered his eyes. He could hardly control the subtle tremors of his body. The people of this world scolded him, humiliated him, hated him, and feared him, but no one pitied him. Back then, he was in the prime of his life. His parents were harmonious, and his family was upright and honest. It was not that he did not want to pass the imperial examinations and become a good official, but those wishes were all destroyed by the Bai family overnight, and he became the demon he was now. And now, it was still the people of the Bai family who expressed pity and understanding for him. He thought it was ridiculous. But why couldn't he smile when he saw Wei Wei Bai's pitiful expression? More than that, he was filled with bitterness and grievance. Wei Wei Bai tried to persuade her, "You are already very good. You escaped the eunuch's humiliation and saved yourself." Mu Yanjun laughed in a low voice. He raised his eyes, and his eyes were frighteningly clear. Wei Wei Bai felt that when he looked at her, it was like a wolf looking at meat, greedy and joyful. Maybe God feels that he owes me, so he sent you to me. For the first time, Wei Wei Bai could not understand his brain circuit. This dialogue jump was too big. She was sent by the system, not God. Mu Yanjun suddenly bowed his head and kissed her. The kiss was hard and fast, just like stamping. Wei Wei Bai was startled and raised her head to avoid it. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 20. Mu Yanjun did not care about her dodging. He suddenly whispered, "What you owe me is not only a life, but also my whole life. So, you have to use yourself to pay it back, for a lifetime." These words, like a curse, were full of binding power. Read the full text. / Download the full text. Read the full text. Collections at the bottom to record the reading record. Chapter 173. Wei Wei Bai angrily pushed him away. "You also ruined my life. Don't you also owe me?" Mu Yanjun saw that her face was dyed red because of her anger. Under the light of the fire, it was indescribably charming. His eyes deepened as he said, "I owe you, but I don't want to pay it back. What can you do to me?" Wei Wei Bai's eyes widened. "Then I won't pay it back. What can you do to me?" Mu Yanjun glanced at her frivolously. He lifted his hand, and his index finger was already rubbing her lips. This action was indescribably ambiguous and affectionate. "I can. Those who owe me and don't pay it back have all died without a burial place." Wei Wei Bai angrily avoided his action. This shameless style, she was ashamed of her inferiority. The bonfire was burning, and the clothes were dry, so it was not too cold to wear. But Wei Wei Bai sat awkwardly in the corner. Mu Yanjun sat by the fire. His leg was injured and could not move. He could only stick his eyes to her, gloomy and not knowing what he was thinking. Wei Wei Bai secretly reached out and covered her stomach. She was hungry again. Mu Yanjun saw her action and coldly snorted. "Isn't a hunger strike very capable? Why are you hungry?" Wei Wei Bai glared at him fiercely, turned her body, and did not look at him. Mu Yanjun touched a stone and threw it. It flew over her head, and something fell down. Wei Wei Bai fixed her eyes on it and was about to faint. It was a fat snake. She shook her body at the system. "Snake, snake, snake, snake." The system snorted. "Spicy snake sauce, spicy snake flavor, fresh snake meat soup, salt and pepper snake meat, and a snake soup. TSK, TSK, good time?" Wei Wei Bai, who was afraid of snakes. "Not delicious at all, so scary." Mu Yanjun said in a deep voice, "Bring it here." Wei Wei Bai was very firm. "Won't take it." Not only did it not take it, but it also kept moving to a corner further away. Mu Yanjun ordered that few people would not listen. As a result, Wei Wei Bai really did not listen to him. He and Wei Wei Bai stared at each other. In the end, he took the branch that was used as firewood, stretched out his hand and picked up the snake. Then, he took the short knife that he didn't throw away and deftly skinned and removed the internal organs of the snake. Soon, The snake was roasted on a rack. Wei Wei Bai was too hungry, so she didn't want to eat even more. Mu Yanjun picked up the roasted snake meat and handed it to her. He jokingly said, "Aren't you hungry? Have some." Wei Wei Bai looked at the corpse of the snake in front of her, which had died with its eyes wide open and was extremely twisted. She felt that she was already full and was not hungry at all. Mu Yanjun saw her cowardly appearance and sneered. "Really a young lady who doesn't know the world," Wei Wei Bai sneered. "I don't eat food given to me, and I don't eat the food of my enemies." Mu Yanjun looked at her indifferently, and suddenly the corner of his mouth hooked up. "Don't eat. When I go back, I will throw the little emperor into the snake cave to feed the snakes." Wei Wei Bai looked up in horror. Her face flashed a humiliated and tangled expression. "How can you be so bad? He's just a child." Mu Yanjun saw that when she heard the little emperor, she was willing to pay attention to him. He was annoyed. His eyebrows slightly raised. "Yes, I'm so bad. You already knew." Wei Wei Bai looked at the snake meat he roasted with disgust. Her fingers trembled slightly as she lifted the snake in his hand. Mu Yanjun suddenly took the snake back. Then he used a knife to remove the bones of the snake, cut it into thin slices, and pulled a large leaf from the branch of the firewood to serve as a plate. He stuffed the snake meat to Wei Wei Bai. Wei Wei Bai looked at the thin slices of meat in her hand. She couldn't tell that it was a snake at all. She was hungry again. Fast crossing system. "Prince Charming, you come here." /fast crossing system. "Prince Charming, you come here." Full text / fast crossing system. "Prince Charming, you come here." Download fast crossing system. "Prince Charming, you come here." Fast crossing system. "Prince Charming, you come here." Chapter 174. Then she tried to eat a piece, and the taste was actually okay. She quietly ate a few more pieces. While eating, she secretly glanced at Mu Yanjun. Mu Yanjun also looked at her, and their eyes met. Wei Wei Bai looked away in embarrassment. Mu Yanjun's mocking expression softened. But there were a few more traces of indulgence. "I also want to eat." Wei Wei Bai was stunned, only to find that he didn't eat. The meat was given to her. He really didn't have anything to eat. She hesitated and handed back the rest of the meat in her hand. Mu Yanjun didn't take it. "Feed me." Wei Wei Bai was angry. "Mu Yanjun, you." Mu Yanjun said coldly, "Little Emperor." Wei Wei Bai immediately couldn't scold him. She bit her lip, and her face was a mixture of shyness and anger. Finally, she resigned herself to her fate and picked up a piece of meat and handed it to his mouth. Mu Yanjun bowed his head. The tip of his tongue rolled and unexpectedly sucked on her fingertips. Wei Wei Bai only felt her fingertips wet and warm. She was stupefied and then quickly pulled her fingers back. She blushed and angrily scolded, "You are simply shameless." After that, she stuffed the snake meat in her hand into his arms. "You eat it yourself. You'll be stuffed to death." This little girl's shyness and anger was completely different from her previous face of him. Mu Yanjun only felt that he was caught in a trance by her demeanor, and his mood improved. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 25. Wei Wei Bai sighed to the system. "This favorability is rising too fast. I'm not used to it." System. "Fast you dislike. Slow you also dislike. You really are hard to please." Wei Wei Bai, after eating, the body's fatigue couldn't be suppressed, and Wei Wei Bai quietly yawned. She leaned against the cave wall, dozed off, and soon fell asleep. Mu Yanjun stretched out his hand to support his jaw, watching the dozing Wei Wei Bai. On his delicate and suffocating face, there were a few traces of intoxicating softness. When Xiaomo silently entered the cave, what she saw was Mu Yanjun's amazing gentleness. Of course, this gentleness disappeared in a flash. He stretched out his fingers and pressed Wei Wei Bai's nape, letting her sleep deeper, unable to wake up. Then he turned to Xiaomo, coldly. "What's the matter with the horse?" Xiaomo broke out in a cold sweat. "Superintendent, maybe the horse wasn't trained well enough, so it was startled." Mu Yanjun coldly reprimanded. "I think you are also not trained well. Go back and receive your punishment." Xiaomo said in fear and trepidation, "Yes, Superintendent." The Empress Dowager, Empress Dowager. Mu Yanjun was neither yin nor yang. Why? Do you need to inquire about her matters and decide? Little Foam immediately kowtowed and repeatedly said, "This servant doesn't dare. This servant doesn't dare." Mu Yanjun did not look at her. After a moment of silence, he slowly asked, "What kind of person do you think she is?" Xiaomo hesitated, not knowing what he meant by asking this. But she had to answer, "The Empress Dowager is a very gentle and good person. She is not the same as the Bai family." Mu Yanjun sneered, "You know her well." Xiaomo's mind was a mess. She did not know why Du Zhu asked this, and what he was unhappy about. Mu Yanjun said, "You go out?" Xiaomo was surprised. "Du Zhu, we have found you. There is also a road to the top under the cliff, and the carriage can also pass." Mu Yanjun said coldly, "Don't show up, just follow from a distance, don't let her find out." Xiaomo was confused. Mu Yanjun whispered to Wei Wei Bai, "Just let me see. How kind and gentle you are." Chapter 175. They were clearly enemies, but she was still willing to save him after being tortured so miserably by him. This kind of gentleness was too silly to be real. He knew how vicious people's nature was. He also had his moments of kindness and gentleness, but they were ruined by those vicious encounters. He did not believe that she could be an exception. Bai Weiwei slept until dawn. As she stretched, she thought of something and hurriedly looked to the side. Mu Yanjun was still asleep. His long hair scattered, and his complexion was better than yesterday. But he was still haggard and weak. Wei Wei Bai got up silently and then left the cave. Mu Yanjun opened his eyes and looked at her back. Was she going to leave him behind and run away? Mu Yanjun smiled coldly. Sure enough, no matter how kind she was, she could not last long. As a result, he did not wait for his order to bring her back. Wei Wei Bai was already holding a large leaf with clear water, carefully returning. Mu Yanjun was stunned. She saw him wake up, and her footsteps paused. Then she said with a cold face, "Wake up, wash up." The two used the water to simply take care of themselves. Wei Wei Bai saw that Mu Yanjun's long hair was draped over his shoulders, so she knitted a thin straw rope and handed it to him. "You tie it. It will be inconvenient to take the mountain road later." Mu Yanjun's eyes were deep. "My foot is broken. You help me tie it." Wei Wei Bai glared at him. "Your hand is not broken." Mu Yanjun lazily said, "Then I won't tie it." Wei Wei Bai endured, then walked behind him, bowed her head, and tied the hairband for him. Mu Yanjun felt the gentle movement of her fingers through his long hair. Even if he was angry, the movement was still so gentle. Mu Yanjun could not help but smile. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 30. Wei Wei Bai, tying the hairband once is 5 points of favorability. Then if you tie the hairband 14 times, it will be 100. After tidying up, Wei Wei Bai gave Mu Yanjun a branch to use as a crutch. "Let's go out and find the way," Mu Yanjun said softly. "I thought you couldn't wait to go out and let me die here." Wei Wei Bai rolled her eyes at him. "If I wanted you to die, I wouldn't have saved you in the first place. Why are you so suspicious?" Mu Yanjun coldly snorted. "If I were not suspicious, I would have died long ago." Wei Wei Bai said, "Scourges live for 1,000 years. You'll live a long life." Mu Yanjun was eccentric. "Thank you for your auspicious words." As the two bickered, they supported each other as they walked into the depths of the forest. Unknowingly, the surroundings became even more silent and ghostly. Wei Wei Bai couldn't help but mutter, "Did we go the wrong way?" Mu Yanjun, "Did you just find out?" They had circled the same place 3 times. Wei Wei Bai had no sense of direction. Wei Wei Bai was about to say something when she suddenly heard the sound of a giant beast leaping out from the depths of the forest. Mu Yanjun's face changed, and he pulled Wei Wei Bai back. But his hand caught empty air. Wei Wei Bai unexpectedly took a few steps forward and stood in front of him like an arrow. Wei Wei Bai was actually acting instinctively. Her head could be broken, but her character could not be confused. She was a white lotus. How could she do something like running away? Then she looked up, and her legs were about to go soft. It turned out to be a white-headed tiger, standing on a high place and looking at them restlessly. "Wei Wei Bai, 0, can I run?" System. Mu Yanjun will chop you to death. Left and right, it was death. Wei Wei Bai's eyes were firm. She blocked Mu Yanjun and refused to back down even half a step, even if she was facing a giant tiger. Mu Yanjun looked at her weak and small back. Was she not afraid? Chapter 176. She was obviously scared. Her whole body was trembling. He lowered his eyelids, a deep and treacherous gloom in his eyes. You run. My legs are broken and I can't run. I'll just be food for the tiger. When it eats me, you run for your life. Looking at the tiger getting closer and closer, Wei Wei Bai's voice trembled as she said, I won't run. When it eats me, you try to escape. This is what I owe you. I made you a eunuch. I made you be humiliated. And it was my Bai family that killed your family. What I owe you, I pay you back. With her life, she repaid all the losses he had suffered. Mu Yanjun only felt that his heart, which was already black to the end, was torn apart by her words. Painful, but alive. When he was bullied to the end, he was thoroughly black-hearted and black-hearted. She was clearly bullied to this point, but still did not change her nature. For the first time, Mu Yanjun felt that he had lost to a fragile girl. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 40. Wei Wei Bai saw the tiger suddenly pounce. She turned around in horror and suddenly reached out to hug Mu Yanjun. Don't eat him. With this bump, she fell into his arms. His heart suddenly jumped and started to beat crazily. Wei Wei Bai hugged Mu Yanjun, as if she wanted to hide him in her arms. Don't eat him. Eat me, she cried out. Mu Yanjun did not expect that she could do this. No one could pretend to this point. When people were at the juncture of life and death, they would often reveal their nature, ugly or good nature. The tiger opened its big mouth, roared, and was about to bite down on Wei Wei Bai's back. Wei Wei Bai still refused to leave, but held on to him tightly, as if this could protect him. Mu Yanjun moved. He held Wei Wei Bai's body and turned, pulling out the short blade at his waist. With a flash of white light, the tiger leaping down was cut open by him. Warm tiger blood splashed over, splashing onto the two of them. The tiger fell to the ground and twitched. Blood and internal organs flowed all over the ground. Before Wei Wei Bai could come back to her senses, she heard the system's notification. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 50. This was the favorability that she had exchanged her life for. Bai Wei Wei was moved to tears. Mu Yanjun retracted his dagger and gently stroked her face with his hand. Don't be afraid. It's just a kitten. Just kill it. Wei Wei Bai burst into tears. Was there a kitten that weighed a few 100 kilograms? Mu Yanjun saw that she was still in tears, his brows wrinkled, and finally there was pity in his eyes. Although my leg is broken, I still have the strength to protect you. Wei Wei Bai let go of him and turned around angrily. Who needs your protection? Mu Yanjun smiled and did not care about her attitude. The two of them were covered in blood as they walked for a while. After a series of twists and turns, they came across several hot springs of various sizes. Mu Yanjun said, You go wash up. Wei Wei Bai looked at him warily. Mu Yanjun pointed to his broken leg. Look at me. I can't walk alone. I'll sit far away. Call me when you're done, and I'll go wash up. Wei Wei Bai looked at the tiger blood on her body. The smell was unbearable. She nodded reservedly. Okay. After saying that, she helped him to a place far away to sit. Then she ran to the hot springs and began to undress. Mu Yanjun's eyesight was better. He pretended to look casually, and when he looked up, he saw her movements. Her slender figure, under the sun, had a mixture of pure temptation. Her clothes fell to her feet, revealing her entire beautiful back. Mu Yanjun only felt that the lower half of his body, which he rarely felt, seemed to be moving. Wei Wei Bai chatted with the system. Why do I feel that Mu Yanjun is impotent? System. Yes, although he was not castrated, he was frightened in his early years, leading to many years of eunuch in his heart, which is impotent. Wei Wei Bai. So the strange side task is to make him lift up? Chapter 177. The lower limit of this side task was outrageous. Wei Wei Bai, who did not want to complete the task at all. What if the side task fails? System. 5 lightning strikes from the heavens. Wei Wei Bai, the system was afraid that she would not believe it. This is controlled by the system headquarters. Once the side task is accepted, it cannot fail. If it fails, the headquarters will automatically release 1 billion volts of lightning and turn you into a Pikachu. Wei Wei Bai, why didn't you say that? System. You didn't ask. Wei Wei Bai, spicy chicken system, the system's garbage fighter. Wei Wei Bai thought of the punishment of being struck by lightning. Dying was too shameful. She could only brace herself to complete the task. She thought for a long time, and then brooded for a moment. Her face slowly paled, and her body swayed. Like a small white flower with broken wings in a hot spring, she suddenly plunged into the water. The hot spring water instantly swallowed up her petite body. Mu Yanjun, who was watching in the distance, immediately stood up. His broken leg was affected by the dull pain. But this kind of pain, in Wei Wei Bai's view, may not be able to walk. But for him, he could fully bear it. His subordinates were far behind them, but Mu Yanjun did not want them to come over at all. He took the branch and came to the hot spring at a very fast speed. Wei Wei, he called out her name, with a trace of anxiety that he was not aware of. He looked down and saw Wei Wei Bai's whole body soaked in the water, her long black hair floating on the surface. Mu Yanjun did not think much. He sat in the water and picked her up by the waist. The girl's soft skin and slender waist, after soaking in the water, appeared even more creamy. She softly leaned against his chest. Her face still had a trace of red from the hot spring immersion. It was like a flower bud waiting to bloom. Not yet in full bloom, there was already a soul-stirring beauty. Mu Yanjun saw her appearance and knew that she was weak. She could not stand the hot spring water and fainted. It was nothing serious. She suddenly groaned. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and the water droplets on her face slid down to her neck. Mu Yanjun's eyes involuntarily followed the traces of the water droplets and looked down. The girl's beautiful figure was faintly discernible in the water. Mu Yanjun did not know why, but a strange heat came out of his body. He stared at her lips, his fingers touching her body. The impulse in his heart was like a giant beast struggling to expand. He used more and more strength to imprison her. Of course, he knew what his impulse was, but he was a half-crippled man. He couldn't even be considered a man. He thought that he would never experience such agitation in his entire life. Who would have thought? Mu Yanjun's eyes deepened and burned. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 55. Wei Wei Bai secretly asked the system, "Did you raise it?" The system said coldly, "Don't you have any idea whether you can raise it or not?" Wei Wei Bai said, "I've already sacrificed so much, but there's no reaction at all. I think he doesn't need a woman. He needs a doctor." The system said, 5 thunderstrike from heaven. Wei Wei Bai, for a moment, Mu Yanjun thought that he had a reaction. But he would think of the experience of lying in the eunuch's room as a child. That kind of tragic experience made him calm down. He bowed his head and kissed her delicate lips. The burning restlessness in his heart was still there, but his body did not have much of a reaction. But for Mu Yanjun, this was enough. Enough for him to clearly realize that he had different feelings for Wei Wei Bai. / Collection at the bottom to record the reading record. Chapter 178. Mu Yanjun gestured to Xiaomo from afar, and Xiaomo immediately understood. Without looking sideways, she sent over 2 sets of clean clothes. Mu Yanjun wiped Wei Wei Bai's body. His delicate technique and gentle strength made Wei Wei Bai want to cry. Wei Wei Bai, why is he still impotent? System. A man whose heart is a eunuch, if you don't let him feel like a man, he won't get it up. Wei Wei Bai, our topic is so dirty. System. I'll send you a bottle of detergent. Mu Yanjun helped her get dressed, and then let someone come over to deal with his broken leg. Leg injuries were not serious for him, and were easy to recover from. Wei Wei Bai knew that there was no progress in a short time, so she simply went asleep. This trip to the cliff exhausted her body like a dog. She slept until she woke up to see a person sitting next to her. looking at her with deep eyes against the light. The man with erectile dysfunction. Oh no. Mu Yanjun sat lazily, playing with a jade bracelet in his hand. You're awake. Wei Wei Bai glanced around, somewhat dazed and somewhat desperate. Here was the palace. Although this was not her room, but living in the palace all year round, how could she not see the furnishings of the palace? Wei Wei Bai sat up. We're back to the palace? Mu Yanjun certainly saw the despair on her face. How could she not be desperate? She thought she could escape, but was easily brought back by him. Mu Yanjun asked softly, Why? Regret saving me? If you didn't save me, you might have already escaped. Wei Wei Bai sneered. These are two different things. I saved you once, in exchange for not owing you a peace of mind. I'm happy. Mu Yanjun's eyes sank. Not owing me? Can you be at ease? Wei Wei Bai was not afraid at all. Yes, so I can continue to hate you with a clear conscience. Mu Yanjun pinched the bracelet in his hand, and could not help but tighten it. His eyes turned cold. How can a dead person like you hate me? Wei Wei Bai was confused. Dead? Mu Yanjun turned to look at her, and the corners of his mouth suddenly evoked a malicious smile. The Empress Dowager was taken out of the palace by thieves and died because she was not rescued in time. Now the palace is holding a funeral for you. Wei Wei Bai was horrified. Funeral? Are you going to bury me alive? Mu Yanjun. Wei Wei Bai immediately suppressed the fear on her face and returned to her previous indifference. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Don't even think about begging for mercy. Mu Yanjun suddenly chuckled, then clasped her hand and slowly put on the jade bracelet in his hand. This is my mother's. She said that this jade bracelet was rare, so she planned to give it to her future daughter-in-law. Wei Wei Bai looked at him in confusion. She didn't seem to understand what he meant. Mu Yanjun looked at the moist green jade bracelet, which set off her wrist even whiter. In the future, there will be no Empress Dowager in the palace, and no Wei Wei Bai. From today on, you will follow my surname Mu, Wei Wei Mu. Wei Wei Bai looked at him in amazement. What the hell are you talking about? Mu Yanjun said to himself. I am old and I need to marry. Wei Wei Bai was puzzled. Can a eunuch marry? Mu Yanjun took a deep breath, then gritted his teeth and said, Yes. Wei Wei Bai looked at him, and then at the bracelet on her hand. Suddenly her face turned white. Mu Yanjun, you can't do this. Mu Yanjun saw that she finally reacted, and he chuckled playfully. I can. Now no one can stop me from doing what I want. Fast crossing system. Man God, you come here. 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 Chapter 179. Wei Wei Bai reached out, wanting to take off the bracelet on her wrist. Mu Yanjun's voice was cold and fleeting. I can make the little emperor grow up smoothly. Wei Wei Bai abruptly stopped her movements. Mu Yanjun saw that she cared so much about the little emperor, and his heart was not the least bit happy, but angry. He softly threatened, I can still protect him to sit in the emperor's position. Wei Wei Bai looked at him in panic and despair. You will be punished by the heavens if you do this. I am the woman of the previous emperor. Mu Yanjun suddenly slammed his hand on the table next to him, and the table was abruptly smashed by his angry strength with 4 legs. The table collapsed with a crash. Mu Yanjun looked at Wei Wei Bai's frightened face. You are not his woman. Do you think I don't know if you are innocent? Or do you want to be the emperor's woman so much? His voice was evil and fierce. Then I will kill the little emperor and sit on it myself. Will you be willing to marry me? But then you will not be the Empress Dowager, but the Empress. Wei Wei Bai was shocked and angry, presumptuous. You are simply a wolf's ambition, treacherous. You. Mu Yanjun saw that she was at a loss for words and helped her continue. I am also black-hearted, sinister, despicable, worse than a beast. After he read a lot of vicious words, he calmly admitted, Yes, I am so bad. What can you do to me? Wei Wei Bai, so shameless to admit it. His face is thicker than hers. Mu Yanjun suddenly approached her, his breath brushing her face. Do you choose to marry me, or marry me when I become the emperor? Wei Wei Bai was on the verge of collapse. You get lost. Are you trying to force me to my death? With that, her face changed, and she suddenly leaned over and spat out a mouthful of blood. Mu Yanjun reached out to support her, and for the first time his voice showed anxiety. Wei Wei? Wei Wei Bai reached out to reject him. You get lost. Mu Yanjun saw that she was very uncomfortable and knew that he had overstimulated her. There was a hint of struggle on his face, and then he called for the imperial physician. After the imperial physician arrived, Wei Wei Bai still did not get better. Instead, she glared at him in pain. Mu Yanjun, under the imperial physician's fear and trepidation, and under her hateful eyes, for the first time retreated in defeat and turned to leave. Before he left, he did not forget to threaten the imperial physician. Treat me properly, or be careful of your head. After Mu Yanjun went out, he did not leave, but just stood at the door. Bubbly Foam came to report some things, but when she looked up, she was shocked. Mu Yanjun's expression was painful and sorrowful. These were two expressions that she had never seen on his face before. No matter how difficult the situation was, their superintendent was always calm and collected. She didn't dare to look anymore. She could only lower her head and leave after reporting the matter. After the imperial physician administered the medicine, Wei Wei Bai's condition stabilized. Then he came out with his head down and told Mu Yanjun about some of her symptoms. His body has entered the cold, and his internal organs are showing signs of deterioration. This hemoptysis cannot be stimulated. Once stimulated, it will flare up. Entering winter. When he thought of these two words, he thought of the time when he tortured her, pouring water on her in the ice and snow. Did he forcibly destroy her healthy body? For the first time, Mu Yanjun knew what remorse was. He stiffened his body and asked with a blank expression, "Can she still be saved?" The imperial physician was powerless. She can only be nursed well. For the time being, there is no other way. Mu Yanjun waved his hand and let the imperial physician go. He looked at the door and reached out to push it open, but suddenly paused. His fingers paused in midair for a long time before he finally slowly pushed it away. Wei Wei Bai was already asleep, her face still pale. Mu Yanjun stood by the bed and stared at her. After a long time, he sighed. Even if you are like this, I will not let you go. I am such a bad person. Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 60E. Chapter 180. Wei Wei Bai lay in bed for several days. Outside the window, the plum blossoms bloomed, and she stared blankly. Slagstem, look at those flowers. Slagstem, how beautiful. Why is Mu Yanjun impotent? Slagstem, and that snow, how beautiful. Why is Mu Yanjun impotent? And those drifting plum tree leaves, they are so beautiful. Why is he impotent? Slagstem, fuck. Where do the leaves come from when the plum blossoms? Wei Wei Bai's face was sad. Why is he impotent? The system finally couldn't bear it and turned over the list impotence, a man's pain, those years of our impotency. Experience of a teddy dog day earth air enduring you deserve, and it hit Wei Wei Bai's brain. Give you some treatment experience. No thanks. Wei Wei Bai sighed. After reading these, he is still impotent. System, tired. Really want to change host. Mu Yanjun had just come in when he saw Wei Wei Bai sitting by the window. The window was open, and the plum blossoms outside were in full bloom. Her face was sideways, and her eyes were frail and sad. Her eyes were distressed. Mu Yanjun's footsteps paused, and his face was gloomy. These days, he didn't have the heart to force her too much, so he just came to her room every day. But even so, she glanced at him from time to time, and it was all tired and sad. Did she hate him that much? Wei Wei Bai faced the plum blossoms outside the window, flipping through the experience of a teddy dog in her mind. She had not yet turned a few pages. A hand suddenly appeared and slammed the window shut. Wei Wei Bai looked up in fright and saw Mu Yanjun standing, looking down at her. She frowned and immediately stood up, wanting to leave the window. Mu Yanjun put his hands on both sides of her, his body directly close to her, forcing her to lean against the window. It's too cold. You shouldn't be sitting here in the wind. Mu Yanjun bowed his head and whispered next to her, his words unexpectedly carrying a trace of gentleness. Wei Wei Bai replied coldly, "It's none of your business." Mu Yanjun's smile faded. "I am your husband. Of course I can manage your affairs." Wei Wei Bai looked up at him and suddenly lamented, "Mu Yanjun, if you want to humiliate me, why choose this way?" Mu Yanjun's eyes were cold. "Humiliating you? Am I not worthy of you?" Wei Wei Bai said angrily, "Is this a matter of whether she is worthy or not? A woman does not serve two husbands. Aren't you humiliating me by forcing me to marry you?" Mu Yanjun did not expect that she would attach so much importance to his reputation of chastity. His eyes were dark, and his hand gently stroked her face. "Then take it as me insulting you." With that, he suddenly hugged her, bowed his head, and kissed her. This kiss was full of aggression, not giving people any room to breathe. Wei Wei Bai trembled all over and fiercely resisted. The more she struggled, the more he entangled. In the end, Wei Wei Bai was dizzy and was kissed by him until she was out of breath. Mu Yanjun also gasped in a low voice, and when he had taken enough advantage, he released her lips. He said coldly and firmly, "I want you to put on a wedding dress for me. I have already begun to prepare for the wedding. After a while, we will get married." Wei Wei Bai's face was crimson, and her breathing was rapid. When she heard his words, she could not help but look at him angrily. Her expression struggled for a moment before she reluctantly said, "Okay, I will marry you." Mu Yanjun's face was as heavy as water, but his heart was surging with intense joy. She was willing. Full text / Download. Chapter 181. But I want to see the Emperor. This sentence poured cold water on Mu Yanjun's head, and the joy in his heart sank. Wei Wei Bai was afraid that he would not agree. "I want to see him. Otherwise, how do I know that he has not been killed by you?" Now she and the little emperor were just puppets that he could manipulate at will. There was no resistance at all. Mu Yanjun sneered, "You are willing to marry me because of that little emperor." Wei Wei Bai frowned. "What else do you think it is?" How happy Mu Yanjun was just now. How angry he was now. His eyes were like ice. "Very well, I will let you meet." Wei Wei Bai lowered her eyes and seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Mu Yanjun suddenly said, "But you have to kiss me." Wei Wei Bai's eyelashes trembled, and she looked at him with some panic. Mu Yanjun smiled contemptuously, and the exquisite evil on his face was even more obvious. "What, you don't want to?" Wei Wei Bai flinched a little, but she was held tightly by him, and there was no way to retreat. Her eyes flickered a few times. "You let go of me." Mu Yanjun thought it was a refusal and frowned in displeasure. But worried that she would vomit blood again, he could only reluctantly let go of her. Wei Wei Bai pushed him away, and then her hands pinched the corners of her clothes, and her eyes flashed with anger and shame. "You lower your head." Mu Yanjun stared at her. His eyes were like a cluster of fire, and it was frightening. He obeyed and lowered his head. Wei Wei Bai summoned up her courage and looked up. Seeing his burning eyes, her courage ran away. "You close your eyes." Suspicious Mu Yanjun. When he closed his eyes, she would run away directly. But he still closed his eyes. There was a static silence in the air. Just when Mu Yanjun thought that Wei Wei Bai was going back on her word, he suddenly felt a touch of cool softness on his lips, lightly and lightly printed. This kiss, unripe and with the unique fragrance of a young girl. One touch, and then it retreated. There was no reluctance at all. Mu Yanjun only felt that his heart was also deeply imprinted by this kiss. He opened his eyes and saw Wei Wei Bai standing far away. Her head was lowered, and she looked extremely weak. There was a faint blush on her fair face. Mu Yanjun reached out and touched his lips, as if there was still the taste of her kiss. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 65. Mu Yanjun's mood improved a little. "I will let him come to see you." With that, he turned around and left. Only then did Wei Wei Bai raise her head and reach out to rub her neck. Pretending to be shy was not good for the cervical vertebrae. She would lower her head and hold her breath so that the color of her face would turn red. The system asked, Why do you want to see that little fatty cannon fodder? Wei Wei Bai. Isn't Mu Yanjun impotent? I want to ask the little emperor to make an aphrodisiac or something. Let him eat it. Maybe it will work. The system was speechless for a moment and could only change the subject. Actually, I was a little surprised. A woman does not serve two husbands. It sounds particularly loyal and unyielding. Wei Wei Bai smiled coldly. Not serving two husbands, isn't there 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 husbands? Who said there must be 2? System. Mother, you're alive again? The little fat emperor ran round again and hugged Wei Wei Bai with tears and snot flying. Wei Wei Bai, I haven't died. Lil Fatty sobbed. Thief Mu said you were dead, so he held a grand funeral for you. Wei Wei Bai, really gave me a funeral? Little Fatty, I also got you a bunch of monks to help you cross over, so that you can be warmly welcomed when you go to the underworld on the road to the underworld. Wei Wei Bai. The two read at https://www.sashu.com/ the to read at https://m/sashu. Chapter 182. Little Fatty still wanted to say something. Wei Wei Bai's eyes were already brimming with tears as she immediately interrupted him. Your Majesty, listen to me. Little Fatty stood up straight and adjusted the expression on his face. Mother, what do you want to say? Wei Wei Bai said, I want to get a kind of medicine and put it in Mu Yanjun's drink. Little Fatty's eyes lit up and he immediately took out a packet of medicine and stuffed it into her hands. Mother Empress, as expected, you were thinking the same thing as me. This is the 9 turns intestines severing medicine. It contains all 5 poisons. The person who takes it will have their intestines and stomach rotting, their face turning black, and their entire body festering and dying. Wei Wei Bai held the medicine in her hand. Damn it! Would her hand rot from holding this kind of medicine? Little Fatty said earnestly, Mother, that traitor Mu killed our entire family. Soon, we will no longer be of any use to him. He will definitely want to kill us. That's why we strike first. Wei Wei Bai felt that she was worse than a child. Who taught you this? How could a 6-year-old child know so much? Little Fatty raised his eyebrows in doubt. Of course it's grandfather. Didn't he come to the palace every day to teach me? Wei Wei Bai quickly took a piece of dessert from the table and stuffed it into his mouth. If the little Fatty said anything, his grandfather had taught them how to kill, set fires, and poison people. Being heard by Mu Yanjun, her White Lotus persona collapsed in minutes. Little Fatty felt that the pastries were delicious and took a few more pieces. As he ate, he vaguely said, Mother, don't be afraid. He is just a eunuch. I have read many books. Bad eunuchs all have bad endings. Oh, then why don't you tell me what happened to those bad eunuchs? A gloomy voice sounded behind him. The little emperor immediately cowered. He shrunk his shoulders and lowered his head, immediately turning into a quiet quail. No, 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 I didn't say anything. Wei Wei Bai's expression changed. She immediately hid the medicine in her sleeves and hugged little Fatty. He's still young, so it's inevitable that he speaks too casually. Don't vent your anger on him. Mu Yanjun saw her action, and his expression became even more indifferent. He suddenly reached out and grabbed the little emperor's collar, strangling little Fatty's neck until his face turned green. Wei Wei Bai was angry and anxious. Mu Yanjun, you let him go? Mu Yanjun sneered. It is because he is young that he needs to be properly disciplined, lest he grow up crooked. When he grows up, he will only be an incapable ruler who will only walk the path of evil. Little Fatty waved his hands in the air, unable to say a single word. Wei Wei Bai saw that he was about to suffocate and rushed to Mu Yanjun's side. She reached out and grabbed his arm. You put him down. Mu Yanjun looked at her with eyes that were frighteningly cold. Just now, what were you talking about? The system reminded him. Your conversation with the little cannon fodder emperor has been heard by him. He has been sitting on the roof. Wei Wei Bai, what is he doing sitting on the roof, acting as a lightning rod? Her mind sank, and the expression on her face became uncertain. We didn't say anything. Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 60. Mu Yanjun repeated softly and coldly, didn't say anything. The strength of his hand increased, and the little emperor was pinched until his eyes began to turn white. Wei Wei Bai panicked. Mu Yanjun, what are you crazy about? You put him down, you let him go. Mu Yanjun sneered. What am I crazy about? I also suspect that I am crazy about something. Crazy to the point that even if she wanted to poison him, he still did not change his mind and wanted to marry her. Chapter 183. Wei Wei Bai felt that if this continued, little Fatty would probably go to his grandfather. She took a deep breath, resolutely stood on tiptoe, and reached out to hold his face. She kissed him fiercely. It was different from her previous light kiss. This sudden kiss was full of angry strength. Soft and sweet lips, strongly printed on his lips, tearing and biting. Her whole body was trembling. She was so scared that she didn't know what to do, but she still pressed forward to kiss him. Mu Yanjun froze, only feeling that all his reason was imprisoned by this kiss. He stood there in a daze, letting Bai Weiwei kiss him. The kiss was not long, but for the two parties, it seemed like a lifetime. Weiwei Bai finally couldn't hold on and released his lips. Her eyes were full of tears, stubbornly pitiful. I kiss you. You let him go. Mu Yanjun was silent, then suddenly released his hand and threw little Fatty to the ground. Someone come. Send the emperor back. Immediately, someone bowed his head and came in, holding little Fatty and quickly leaving. This time, it was estimated that little Fatty's life would be locked up. Only then did Bai Weiwei's body soften. She was so frightened that she couldn't see clearly. She stepped back a few steps and sat directly in the chair. Mu Yanjun looked at her coldly, suddenly lifted his foot, and approached her step by step. Weiwei Bai only felt that he was like a mountain, full of a crushing momentum. He bowed his head, his eyelids drooping, his eyes dark and terrible. You don't have anything to say to me? Weiwei Bai's fingers couldn't help but touch her sleeves, feeling very guilty. Say what? I don't want to talk to you. Mu Yanjun, who was the best at extorting confessions, how could he not hear the fear in her words? Her lying expression was obvious to the point of ridicule. Mu Yanjun felt that he was even more ridiculous. Didn't he have thousands of means to make a person speak the truth? Now, he was reluctant to use any kind of punishment on her. Mu Yanjun suddenly laughed, full of sarcasm. It's fine if you don't want to talk about it. We can talk about it on our wedding night. I hope you won't disappoint me. The last sentence, in Mu Yanjun's mouth, was full of an icy sharpness. Then he turned around and walked out. When he stepped out of the door, he couldn't help but look back. However, he found Weiwei Bai sitting on the chair with a pale and sorrowful face. Her thin body was slightly bent, as if she couldn't bear the burden. Mu Yanjun's heart ached, and he could not suppress his feelings of pity for her. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 65. He was afraid that he would reveal too much, so he could only leave in a hurry. Weiwei Bai was chatting with the system. What are you talking about on the wedding night? Didn't they just do things directly? The system laughed coldly. You're really inexperienced. There are so many things you can say. Yalai Dai, no, I beg you. Come in quickly. Beep 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 beep. Weiwei Bai remained silent for a while before saying, he's impotent. Why would I say all this? System. He can't, but the cucumber, eggplant, wooden stick, jade horse can. Weiwei Bai, most people knew about Mu Yanjun's marriage. But except for a few people, no one knew who the bride was. The outside world guessed, but no one guessed that it was the dead Empress Dowager. On the wedding day, Weiwei Bai was half asleep when she was pulled up, and the matron of honor dressed her up. Her mind was not clear, and when she really woke up, she saw in the bronze mirror that she had been dressed up. Full text // Download. Chapter 184. In the mirror, her eyes were bright and her teeth were white. Her face was stained with pink rouge, which made her skin appear smooth and creamy. The red veil quickly covered her eyes. Because of her obedience, many of the wedding steps were quickly completed. After bowing to heaven and earth, she was sent to the bridal chamber. Wei Wei Bai knew that Mu Yanjun would not come so soon, because the groom would be left to drink. She secretly lifted the veil and saw that the matron of honor and the servants were there. Her mind turned. She found a reason and sent them all out. Then Wei Wei Bai waited for a while before she heard the sound of the system's reminder. The male lead is here, looking at you through the door. Wei Wei Bai took off the veil and then took out the package of medicine that little fatty gave her. She looked nervously at the door and found that there was no one. Then she hurried to the table. Standing outside the door, the darkness in Mu Yanjun's eyes condensed like a storm. She still wanted to poison him. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 55. Mu Yanjun could not see which wine glass she poured the medicine into. No, he coldly sneered at himself. Of course it was poured into his wine glass. He couldn't help but lift his feet, pretending that he had just arrived, and made footsteps. Sure enough, he heard the sound of her running back from the table in a panic. Mu Yanjun only felt that his heart was being stabbed again and again. He was silent for a while before he pushed open the door with anger and pain. As soon as he entered, he saw Wei Wei Bai in a wedding dress, sitting on the wedding bed. Mu Yanjun walked in front of her. Her fingers clenched the bridal handkerchief, and her nails were white. His fingers were so stiff that he didn't know whether to lift the veil first, or to strangle the woman first. In the end, he directly lifted the veil. Wei Wei Bai was startled by the sudden action. She looked at him with watery eyes. In the candlelight, her red dress was like a cloud. Her face was dyed red, but it was more like a shy red. Wei Wei Bai seemed to be at a loss. She looked up at him and suddenly called out softly, "Husband." Mu Yanjun stared blankly. He only felt that even if this sentence was not sincere, it could make people willing to die in her lies. Wei Wei Bai then said, "Husband, it's time for us to cross cups." These words made his heart, which had been floating, fall back to the ground heavily. Mu Yanjun sneered, "Okay, let's drink cross-cupped wine." When Wei Wei Bai heard this, she immediately rushed to the table and picked up 2 glasses of wine that had already been poured. He passed one of the cups to him. Mu Yanjun looked at the wine glass in her hand. His eyes were very deep, and finally he took it. Wei Wei Bai stood on tiptoe and reached out to hold his hand. Then, she lowered her head and slowly drank the wine in her cup. But when she looked up, she saw Mu Yanjun holding a wine glass, his eyes looking at her unpredictably. As for the wine in his cup, he hadn't touched it at all. Wei Wei Bai was puzzled. "Husband, why don't you drink?" Mu Yanjun finally couldn't help but sneer. "It's really hard for you to specially prepare such a good wine for me." Wei Wei Bai was a little confused, but the next moment she realized what he was saying. She immediately stepped back several steps. "You know?" Mu Yanjun gently turned the wine glass in his hand. "Know what? Do you know that the vicious little emperor gave you a bag of poison to kill me?" Wei Wei Bai weakly retorted, "No." Mu Yanjun interrupted her. "Or, my bride, is going to poison her husband with a glass of poisoned wine?" He looked at her coldly. "Unfortunately, I know poison. As long as I smell it, I know." Mu Yanjun smelled the wine. There was no smell of poison. He looked up in surprise, but saw that Wei Wei Bai's face was pale, and the blood in her mouth was dripping down from the corner of her mouth. Fast crossing system. Male God, you come here /fast crossing system. Male God, you come here to read // fast crossing system. Male God, you come here to TXT download fast crossing system. Male God, you come here to read the mobile the fast crossing system. Male God, you come here, comma. Chapter 185. For a moment, Mu Yanjun's brain was blank. He couldn't hold the cup in his hand, and it fell to the ground and broke into pieces. Wei Wei Bai couldn't support her body, and her whole person fell to the ground. Mu Yanjun immediately rushed to her side and reached out to hold her in his arms. Wei Wei Bai wanted to say something, but when she opened her mouth, it was a big mouthful of blood. Mu Yanjun felt that he had never panicked to this point. "Wei Wei." He reached out and clasped her wrist, and found that her pulse was in chaos, almost a sign of death. Wei Wei Bai smiled. Her lips were stained with blood, gorgeous and desolate. "Mu Yanjun, are you satisfied?" Mu Yanjun held her, already out of his mind. His voice trembled. Don't talk, don't talk. He immediately took a heart protection pill that was almost always on him and stuffed it into her mouth, forcing her to swallow. Then he turned to his subordinates outside and anxiously ordered them to call for a doctor. Wei Wei Bai was in so much pain that she couldn't bear it and reached out to grab his clothes. Mu Yanjun's hand immediately grabbed her fingers, and he said in a panic, "You don't care about the little emperor? If you die, he won't have a good end." Wei Wei Bai smiled bitterly, and tears fell. "Will you let us go? Sooner or later we won't have a good end. It's just sooner or later." Mu Yanjun reached out and wiped her mouth. She was still vomiting blood. The color of the blood was black. At first glance, it was a highly toxic poison. The heart protection pill could only save a life for a while, but if the poison was not cured, she would not live. Mu Yanjun's lips were trembling. "You don't believe me? I said you are alive. I will let him sit on the throne smoothly." Wei Wei Bai had begun to fall into a trance. She whispered, as if speaking to herself, "You have tortured me long enough. I would rather you kill me with a knife. I don't want to live every day to bear this heartache." Mu Yanjun couldn't understand her words for a while. Heartache, heartache. All of a sudden, he finally remembered what she had said. "Do you think that the greatest pain is having your skin ripped open and your bones and tendons broken? But this is just a small trick. The real torture is to be tempted." Wei Wei Bai looked up, her eyes filled with intense pain. "I can't like you." What kind of person was Mu Yanjun? A person who could divide a sentence into several sentences. It wasn't that he didn't like her, but he couldn't like her. The difference of one word was more than 1,000 miles. His mind was shaken as he looked at her in disbelief. "What did you say?" "Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 60. Wei Wei Bai didn't seem to hear it, but she also seemed to have heard it. She said in a low voice in despair, "I can't like the enemy who killed my family." Mu Yanjun reached out to wipe the blood from her lips. He suddenly stopped. He only felt his heart thump, and his eyes were wet and hot. Wei Wei Bai was in so much pain that she was in a trance. She cried and repeated, "I feel so bad. You're tormenting me so bad." Mu Yanjun looked at her appearance, and for a moment he was at a loss for what to do. A man who was usually cruel and ruthless, the softest part of his heart was dug out. He couldn't help but hold her. He reached out and stroked her back, his voice trembling as he coaxed her. "I won't torture you. I won't torture you in the future. Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 70. I won't force you in the future. If you don't want to see me, I'll disappear." Bai Weiwei's eyes had already lost focus. She stared blankly at the other side, then suddenly whispered something. Mu Yanjun listened carefully, but heard her say, "How can I be willing to not see you quick to read / /quick txt download collections at the bottom to record the reading record." Chapter 186. Mu Yanjun only felt that deep in his throat, there was something sour and unbearable coming up, so painful that he wished he was dead. He held her tightly, his hand pressed against her heart, using his internal energy to protect her. But the poison spread so fast that his eyes were desperate. Wei Wei Bai's breath gradually weakened, and her eyes slowly closed. Mu Yanjun was scared cold. He couldn't help but order, "Wei Wei Bai, you are not allowed to sleep. Otherwise I will kill that little fat emperor. Haven't you always cared about him the most?" She was silent and quiet. Mu Yanjun's voice could not control the despair. "Wake up, I don't hate you. Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 75. Wei Wei Bai's lips moved, but in the end, nothing came out. "I killed your whole family. You should hate me. You should kill me." But she could no longer answer. She lost her last bit of consciousness and fell into a thick darkness. Mu Yanjun was furious. "Wei Wei Bai, are you a fool? You should hate me. You shouldn't love me." If this love would kill her, what was the use of it? He would rather she hate him, so that she would think about killing him day and night. She was so stupid. She certainly could not kill him. Even if they killed each other for a lifetime, it would be a lifetime. When bubbly foam dragged the little emperor over, she saw a shocking scene. In her impression, the Du Zhu was always cold and ruthless, never soft-hearted, full of violent and harsh emotions. At this moment, he was like an unguarded child, red-eyed, holding the dying Wei Wei Bai in a daze. Wei Wei Bai had already fainted, and Mu Yanjun did not dare to check her pulse, as if he could deceive himself. The woman in his arms did not seem to be affected. Xiaomo immediately knelt down, her voice somewhat shrill as she shouted, "Du Zhu, I found the antidote." Mu Yanjun was shocked. His pupils contracted. He looked up. His voice was hoarse like crying blood. "Where?" As soon as he finished, the little fatty burst into tears. "Mother." He quickly rushed to Wei Wei Bai's side and took out the bag he had hidden in his pocket. He poured out several black pills. Then, he stretched out his chubby little hand and stuffed the pill into her mouth. "Mother, this is the antidote. Quickly eat it," little fatty said as he cried with snot and tears. Wei Wei Bai had already fainted. She couldn't swallow the pill at all. If she kept it in her mouth and waited for the pill to take effect, she would probably be poisoned to death. Xiaomo had just brought the water when Mu Yanjun grabbed it and poured it into his mouth. He bowed his head and captured her lips, forcing the water in. When he was sure that she had swallowed it, he let go of her lips. When little fatty saw him kissing Wei Wei Bai, his hair stood on end. "Thief Mu, let go of my mother. Our Bai family has let you down, but that was done by the previous generation. Mother didn't do anything. You tortured her like this, humiliated her, and now even forced her to die. You are simply a bastard rotten egg." Mu Yanjun reached out and threw little fatty directly onto the wedding bed, making him roll and unable to speak. He had no time to pay attention to anyone. His hand was protecting her heart, desperately urging the effects of the medicine in her body to work as soon as possible. Suddenly, Wei Wei Bai vomited a mouthful of black blood, choking and coughing, and her heart was restored to life. Mu Yanjun trembled, shouting, "Wei Wei?" Wei Wei Bai opened her eyes in confusion. "Why am I not dead yet?" The tears in Mu Yanjun's eyes suddenly fell, but the words on his mouth were still tough. "If I don't let you die, the King of Hell won't dare to accept you." Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 80. Read at https://www.sashu.com//. Read at https://m-sashu.com collections at the bottom to record the reading record. Chapter 187. Wei Wei Bai was tossed and turned, and finally her body stabilized. She asked the system on her last breath, "How much favorability?" The system was calm. 80. Wei Wei Bai, "Only 80. I even risked my life." The system did not dare to say anything. When it saw that Wei Wei Bai's life was in danger, it could not help but put the life continuation pill on credit. The result was that it did not need to be used. If Wei Wei Bai knew, she would probably strangle it. Wei Wei Bai heard a noise at the door and immediately closed her eyes. She heard the person walking, the rustling of clothes, and the pace seemed to be somewhat urgent. "Still not awake?" Mu Yanjun's voice sounded softly. Wei Wei Bai heard his voice, and her breath stopped for a moment. Mu Yanjun had already reached out to touch her face, but as a result of her intermittent breathing, he knew that she was awake. His fingers were stiff in midair, and when he thought of how she would rather drink the poisoned wine to escape him, he did not dare to touch her. Mu Yanjun did not expect that one day he would be so timid, but he gladly endured it. Mu Yanjun sat by the bed and whispered, "I know you hate me." Wei Wei Bai's eyelashes trembled. Mu Yanjun pretended not to see, "But I did not expect that you would like me." Wei Wei Bai pursed her lips, and there was a flash of sadness in her expression. Mu Yanjun's words paused and finally sighed. "I forced you too much, took away all your things, and made you a helpless person with no identity, pulled her down from the honorable position of the Empress Dowager, just to satisfy his selfish desire to imprison her." He thought about it in reverse. If someone dared to do this to him, he could not wait to kill the other person's entire family. How could it be like Wei Wei Bai, so soft-hearted that she could only retreat to him? Even if there was a chance to kill him, she saved him. If I say, Mu Yanjun felt that it was too difficult to say this sentence. If I say, let you go, will you go? Wei Wei Bai finally opened her eyes. Her face was pale. Mu Yanjun looked at her nervously, only to feel suffocated. She was silent for a long time before she said softly, I'm a dead person now. Where else can I go? Mu Yanjun's fingers pinched the chair, but his expression did not change much. I will give you a new identity. If you don't want to be the Empress Dowager, who do you want to be? Wei Wei Bai was a little dazed. Who else can I be? When I was young, I once thought that if I was the daughter of an ordinary family, I wouldn't have to learn so much etiquette, and I wouldn't have to be restrained by my family to the point where I couldn't go anywhere. Furthermore, there is no need for me to replace my sister's position for the sake of the family and become a widow in the palace. Mu Yanjun listened to her experience and began to feel sad. I once secretly fantasized about what my future husband would be like. What does it look like? After Mu Yanjun finished asking, he found himself being aggressive. Wei Wei Bai thought for a moment. It should be a gentle, kind-hearted man who will treat me well. Mu Yanjun, not gentle at all. It was the opposite of kindness. Cruel to her, no good at all. His hand pinched the chair, more forcefully. If this is your wish, I will help you. Mu Yanjun could hardly go on. He looked up and saw Wei Wei Bai's somewhat doubtful and fragile eyes. Finally, he forced himself to let go, gritted his teeth and said, I will help you achieve it. You have to go. You have to live an ordinary life. / Chapter 188. Wei Wei Bai stared at him blankly. After Mu Yanjun finished, he immediately got up and walked out. The chair he sat on, where he held it with his hand, turned into powder. Wei Wei Bai's eyes showed weakness, and then knocked on the system. I think we should leave the palace. System. Why? Here. Isn't it easier to fill the favorability bar? Wei Wei Bai. Because I don't want to be struck by lightning. System. Wei Wei Bai. That damn perverted task. I can't find a good way to complete it now. The aphrodisiac couldn't be used now. After Mu Yanjun was killed by her poison, he must be vigilant about drugs. So when we leave the palace, I'll find a man to stimulate him, and he'll be able to rise. System. Find a man? Wei Wei Bai smiled. A garden full of spring can't be shut. A red apricot is out of the wall. I'll climb the wall. The system was silent. Wei Wei Bai was sensitive. These days, how come you don't play cheap? It actually obediently stopped being sarcastic. System. Play cheap? Wei Wei Bai. Something's wrong, my slag stem. Did you do something wrong to me? The system forced itself to calm down. No? Wei Wei Bai was skeptical. Really? System. Am I the kind of system that cheats the host? Wei Wei Bai. Yes. System. There's no way to talk about this. Wei Wei Bai questioned. You really didn't secretly steal my life points? She was scared of being cheated. The system glanced at her negative life points because of credit, and felt that it was better not to hit her now, lest the host couldn't face reality and directly go on strike. I really don't care about your poor life points. Back in the days, I was also a famous big boss in the system world, which system didn't call me brother when they saw me. I've seen life points rewards, compared to Ma Yun's account balance. Wei Wei Bai interrupted. Well, as long as you didn't do anything wrong to me. The system was halfway through bragging, but was forced to swallow it back down. He almost had a cerebral hemorrhage. Mu Yanjun was a man of his word, and when he said he would let her leave the palace, he let her leave the palace. In less than 3 days, Bubbly Foam brought 2 ordinary, low-key large carriages with bags of various sizes to invite Wei Wei Bai out of the palace. Miss, I will be your servant from now on. Wei Wei Bai said weakly. Did he ask you to spy on me? Bubbly Foam immediately said, No, no, no. What the superintendent means is, I'm saying that Thief Mu is not my master now. You're my master. Now, if you want me to die, I'll die. If you want me to kill Traitor Mu, I'll avenge you. Wei Wei Bai stared at her, dumbfounded. Bubbly Foam was afraid that she would look down on her, so she quickly rolled up her sleeves and patted her biceps on her arms. You see, I eat less, sleep late, and work better than an ox. I can do laundry, cook, grow vegetables, fix houses, and drive out thieves. I don't need a monthly allowance." Bubbly Foam finished speaking, and then fell to the ground miserably. "So, miss, please accept me." Wei Wei Bai sighed. "Then you can stay." She got into the carriage with the help of Bubbly Foam. The coachman wore a black gauze bamboo hat, so his face could not be seen clearly. After getting into the carriage, Bubbly Foam immediately took out dessert and tea. "Miss, the place we're going to is Liuxiang Hudong, very suitable for living." Wei Wei Bai nodded and drank her tea in silence. Bubbly Foam hesitantly asked, "Miss, I heard that you actually like Trader Mu." Wei Wei Bai looked up and seemed a little surprised. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. N.E. Chapter 189. Xiaomo asked again, "Then why leave?" Wei Wei Bai looked at the tea in her hand and was silent for a long time before she said, "Because this is good for everyone." Xiaomo straightforwardly put a question mark on her face. Wei Wei Bai whispered softly, "He has suffered a lot, all because of me. Although I know that his power is great, if I really stay with him, sooner or later someone will know that I am the Empress Dowager. If others know, then it is the best reason for his enemies to attack." Xiaomo hurriedly said, "No, Du Zhu won't mind." Wei Wei Bai, "But I mind." After that, Wei Wei Bai seemed to feel that she had said too much. She turned to the side and opened the curtain of the carriage window. They had arrived at the main street, bustling with people coming and going. Wei Wei Bai was in a trance. "I haven't been to such a lively place for a long time." Xiaomo immediately said, "Yes, there are all kinds of snack shops on this street. It is a very good place." Wei Wei Bai smiled. "It is very good. But no matter how good it is not as good as him." The last sentence, gently in her mouth, had infinite gentleness. The coachman sitting outside only felt that this sentence softened his heart. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 82. When they arrived at the place where they lived, it was a house with a courtyard. It was the end of winter, but the flowers and trees in the courtyard were lush. It seemed that a lot of thought had been put into it. Wei Wei Bai got out of the carriage, and Xiaomo followed in, carrying large and small bags. The coachman sat in the carriage, silently watching the closed door. Suddenly, one of his subordinates came up to him. "Superintendent, everything is ready." The coachman took off his hat. It was Mu Yanjun. He nodded, his eyes deep as he said, "Let's go." The subordinate led him to the house next to Wei Wei Bai's house. The two rooms were only separated by a single wall. When Mu Yanjun walked into the house, there was a master of disguise. He bowed and saluted. "Du Zhu, I'm ready. What kind of appearance do you want?" Mu Yanjun thought of Wei Wei Bai's words and summed it up. "Gentle as jade, similar to a scholar." The disguise master nodded. Then, he picked up the tools and began to disguise him. This disguise can be maintained for a month, and it won't fade even when exposed to water. When everything was done, Mu Yanjun saw that his appearance in the bronze mirror had greatly changed. His originally delicate and evil appearance became gentle and elegant. Aside from the sinister look in his eyes, he was completely different from before. Mu Yanjun touched his face and looked at the wall of the courtyard. It seemed that he could vaguely hear the conversation between Wei Wei Bai and Xiaomo as expected. "I'm not a good person. I can't let go of you." He had clearly promised her that he would give her an ordinary life and a kind man. But after a night of heart-wrenching pain, he knew that he couldn't let it go. She didn't want to see him. He became someone else, so what if he accompanied her for a lifetime? Wei Wei Bai saw Xiaomo carrying a large water tank to fetch water and chatted with the system. "What do you think Mu Yanjun is doing next door?" The system peeked, and then came back and said, "He's changing his appearance, brushing his eagle feathers white, and pretending to be a rabbit as much as possible." Wei Wei Bai listened. "Well, I found a man who is going to be unfaithful." System? Question mark. Wei Wei Bai smiled. "Let's go out for a stroll." System. Recently, the host's way of thinking is like a gazelle. Jumping too much, it can't keep up. It seems that it's really old. Full text //. Download. The Chapter 190. You can search in Baidu for Transmigration System. Prince Charming, come to search book www.sashu.com to find the Wei Bai went out the door, followed by Xiaomo. After walking for a while, several punks suddenly rushed over. Yo, little lady, you came out to buy something, come, give brother a hug? Wei Bai smiled at the system. Next, I will be molested, and then Mu Yanjun will come out as a hero to save the beauty. The system silently praised. As a result, without waiting for others to save the beauty, Xiaomo rolled up her sleeves and rushed straight over. One punch 2, one kick 3, all settled. Your mother's little bastard. Dare to bully me, I will kill you. One of them hugged her thigh and whispered, Great aunt, we are on the same side. Xiaomo kicked him away. Go to your own side, get lost. In the distance, Mu Yanjun's face was black, and the rest of the subordinates trembled. It was an accident, Du Zhu. Xiaomo finished beating people and returned to Wei Bai's side. Miss, don't be afraid. These dozens of weak shrimps are not enough for me to pinch with one finger. Wei Bai in the system. After shopping, when walking back, Wei Bai estimated that today would be another day of no favorability gain. As a result, just as she turned the corner, Xiaomo saw something and immediately said, I'm going to the toilet, I'll be back soon. After that, she ran away like a wisp of smoke. She had just left when the several pig-headed punks who had just been beaten black and blue with hematoma came online again. Yo, little lady, you're back from shopping. Do you want me to help you carry? Bah, not this, give me one. Wei Bai and the system. With a work injury, you still stick to your post. You are too dedicated. Wei Bai gently coughed, very dedicated to her work, and coldly said with a white face, What are you doing? Don't come over. I'm going to shout. Little punks, shout. Shout until your throat breaks. No one will save you. Wei Bai, system. Can't you change the line? Wei Bai's face was pale. She took a few steps back as the hooligans approached her. Soon, there was no place for her to retreat. Although she was afraid, she tried her best to remain calm. This is the Imperial City. Aren't you afraid of being sued for committing such illegal acts? The hooligan smiled contemptuously. I have someone above me. If the officials hear this, their legs will go soft. After he finished speaking, he reached out to touch her hand. But before he could touch it, another hand reached out and broke his hand. The hooligan screamed and immediately retreated a few steps. You little rascal, how dare you do such a thing in broad daylight? It was a clear voice that sounded as pleasant as the sound of flowing water. The man was dressed in a white robe, carrying a bookcase on his back and a bamboo umbrella in his hand. His back was facing Wei Bai, and he had a handsome demeanor. The hooligan snorted. Who do you think you are? How dare you stop me from having fun? The man took a step forward. His handsome and delicate face was obviously very gentle, but his eyes were stained with a trace of darkness. Oh, I'll give you guys some fun. After he finished speaking, he took a big stride forward and hit them with the bamboo umbrella in his hand. The hooligan ran away. Before he ran away, he did not forget to shout a cannon fodder line. I'll remember you. If you have the guts, don't run. After the man finished hitting the hooligan, the darkness in his eyes disappeared and became incomparably clear. He turned around and said softly, Are you scared? Wei Bai looked up and glanced at him. Then she lowered her head and said gently, Thank you, young master. If it wasn't for you, I might not have been able to escape. The man laughed, and his laughter was especially hearty. It was nothing. I can't stand people who bully the weak and bully the weak. The download address is at https://www.sashu.com. The is at https://m.sashu.com// to the. Chapter 191. Wei Bai also smiled. It was different from her previous melancholy smile. She looked much happier. Yes, I am Junbayan. Where's your home? Let me give you a ride. Wei Bai was about to refuse when it suddenly started to rain. When Junbayan saw this, he opened the umbrella in his hand and directly covered her head. It's raining It seems that I have to give you a ride. Wei Wei Bai smiled shyly. Then I'll have to trouble you. The two of them stood in the rain, one handsome and one delicate. They looked like a perfect match. In the distance, a group of people were squatting in the rain, including the group of hooligans. Little Amo, when can we leave? The hooligan said. Little Amo waved her fist. Why leave? Do you want to be the big lantern between the superintendent and the empress? Just stay here and wait. Wei Wei Bai, who had already walked far away, suddenly kicked a stone. She quickly stabilized her body, but for some reason, her leg went numb and she fell forward. Jun Baiyan reached out and held her in his arms. Wei Wei Bai trembled and blushed, then immediately stood up straight. Sorry, I was careless. Jun Baiyan felt his hand full of fragrance. His eyes deepened. It's inevitable that the road is slippery in the rain. At the door, Wei Wei Bai stopped. Thank you, young master. Jun Baiyan. No need to thank me. My house is next door, it's just on the way. When Wei Wei Bai heard this, she looked up at him and couldn't help but laugh. This laugh was different from when she was in the palace. It was full of vitality and joy. Jun Baiyan only felt his heart thumping. She was simply unbelievably lively and beautiful after leaving the palace. Ding! The male lead's favorability has increased to 85. The system looked at this, then looked at that. They were simply two big actors. The difference was that one was wearing a mask, the other was wearing a human skin. After that day, Wei Wei Bai often met Jun Baiyan. Slowly, she became familiar with him. Her favorability also increased from 85 to 88. The system took out the calendar and flipped through it. Then, it knocked on the host's head. There's only 1 month left before the mission ends. You have to work hard, host. Wei Wei Bai was drawing SpongeBob SquarePants. As she drew, she said, I think it's really blissful to just muddle along and wait for death. Only now do I realize that hard work doesn't guarantee success, but not hard work is very easy. The system said, 5 thunderstrike from heaven. Wei Wei Bai snapped the pin in her hand in half. This stupid system didn't allow her to be lazy. She had no choice but to walk out. Seeing that the flowers in the courtyard were about to bloom, she picked one and put it in her hair. The system reminded her, the male lead is outside. Wei Wei Bai nodded and walked out. She thought she would see Jun Baiyan. As a result, as soon as he went out, he saw several tall horses not far away. The one in the front was indeed Mu Yanjun. He had regained his original appearance, which was so devilishly beautiful that it made people's hearts tremble. He seemed to be doing something. He was sitting on the horse and giving orders to the people below. Wei Wei Bai was stunned and glanced at him. Mu Yanjun also looked up, and the two people's eyes intertwined. Wei Wei Bai's mind turned all kinds of thoughts, and finally her eyes became complicated as she looked at him. There was pain in her eyes, there were memories, and finally relief, turning to calmness. She suddenly smiled at Mu Yanjun, her smile friendly and relaxed. As if she had put down something, she walked to the courtyard next door. Mu Yanjun saw her come back, and his heart couldn't help but thump. He had a bad premonition. This period of time was the happiest period of time he had ever lived. Fast crossing system. Male god, you come here. 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 Collections at the bottom to record the reading record. The fast crossing system. Male god, you come here, comma. Chapter 192. He was Jun Baiyan, and she was not the Empress Dowager, but the ordinary Wei Wei Bai. The friendship between the two of them was as light as water, never crossing the line half a step. But for him, he saw a different side of her. Her shy smile, her occasionally clumsy but unusually cute side. She softly called his gentleness. He felt that the relationship between the two of them was slowly changing, and he even felt that one day she would accept him. But the look in her eyes just now was letting go. Wei Wei Bai knocked on the door and waited for a while before Jun Baiyan opened the door. His breath was a little messy, but he soon returned to his normal state. Wei Wei Bai looked at him tenderly. I have something to say to you. Is that okay? Jun Baiyan's dark eyes darkened, and he smiled. Of course, I welcome you. Wei Wei Bai walked in with him. Mu Yanjun perfectly pretended to be Jun Baiyan, and the room was set up like a scholar's living quarters. The room was full of books, as well as ink, paper, and so on. Wei Wei Bai walked over and saw that there was a painting on the table. It was painted with a woman's back, slender and elegant, as bright as the moon. Jun Baiyan glanced at the painting, and his heart was a little nervous. He liked her and couldn't help but draw it, but he was in a hurry and didn't put it away. Wei Wei Bai smiled. Whose girl is this? Is it Jun Gongzi's sweetheart? Jun Baiyan pursed his lips and finally lightly said, Yes. Wei Wei Bai's smile deepened. Hey, I'm the same as Jun Gongzi. I just happen to have a sweetheart. Then she reached for the brush on the table and smoothly drew another man's back on the painting. The man inside, wearing a white robe, carrying a book box, holding a bamboo umbrella in his hand. A handsome appearance. She gently dropped the words at the end. The mountain has trees, the tree has branches, the heart pleases June, but June doesn't know. The general meaning was, there are trees on the mountain, and everyone knows that there are leaves on the trees. And I like you so much, but you don't know. Jun Baiyan looked at the poem and felt that his heart and soul were moved. The intense ecstasy made him a little dizzy. Ding! The male lead's favorability is at 90. Wei Wei Bai put down her paintbrush. Her eyes sparkled as she smiled charmingly. Excuse me, young master, do you know? Jun Baiyan felt a little confused by this sentence. He suddenly picked up the brush. Beside her handwriting, she wrote, Looking at the sky at dawn, looking at the clouds at dusk, I miss you when I walk, I miss you when I sit. His response was, Look at the sky in the morning, look at the clouds in the evening. I miss you when I'm walking, and I miss you when I'm sitting. After he finished writing, he finally replied, I just found out. The two of them looked at each other and smiled tenderly. The gentleness in Wei Wei Bai's eyes overflowed. I once thought that I would never find my own happiness. Jun Baiyan was stunned. He remembered her life in the palace. Indeed, she did not have a good life at that time. Wei Wei Bai's expression suddenly became a little sad. Actually, I was once moved by a man. Jun Baiyan's eyes darkened. Was it him? But we are not destined to be together. I can't forgive myself for being moved by him. I thought that I would never be able to let go of this feeling. The bad premonition in Jun Baiyan's heart became stronger and stronger. Wei Wei Bai suddenly smiled with relief. When I met him this morning, I thought that I would be very excited. Later, I found that I had already let go of him. Jun Baiyan couldn't help but tremble. He suddenly realized what he had lost. Wei Wei Bai turned to look at him. Her expression was very gentle. When I let go, my mind was full of you. // Save button. Ew. Chapter 193. Put down Mu Yanjun. She liked Jun Baiyan. Jun Baiyan. No. Mu Yanjun only felt that he had made a huge mistake. He wanted her to like him. But the person she finally liked was not him, but another person he pretended to be. Wei Wei Bai suddenly whispered, You lower your head. Jun Baiyan lowered his head, but thought of something. He reached out to block, and a kiss fell on his palm. She wanted to kiss him? No, she wanted to kiss Jun Baiyan. Mu Yanjun's heart was twisted in a complex way. He simply did not know how to deal with it. He was not happy at all. He was full of jealousy. She did not like him, but liked another person, even if this person was him in disguise. But Wei Wei Bai did not know. So she completely did not want him anymore and truly fell in love with another strange man. Mu Yanjun stepped back a few steps. He was worried that he would lose control and explode. Wei Wei Bai's eyes were a little surprised. She quickly bowed her head and said shyly, I was too presumptuous, then I will come back next time. After that, she covered her face and ran out shyly. Mu Yanjun looked at her back, his facial expression twisted and ferocious. Wei Wei Bai returned to her own yard. Only then did she put down the hand covering her face. She said earnestly to the system, System, have you ever seen yourself being cuckolded? System, I just saw it. Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 85. Wei Wei Bai's mouth twitched. She could not help but comfort herself. This is normal. When Mu Yanjun figures it out, the favorability will go back. Because Mu Yanjun ate a loss, Wei Wei Bai was in a rare good mood. After she finished eating, Xiaomo gave her water for her to take a bath. There was a large wooden barrel. Inside was warm water, and fresh petals were floating on the water. Wei Wei Bai took a fragrant bath. She just got up to take her clothes and was ready to put them on. When she found Mu Yanjun sitting on a chair next to the barrel, she did not know how long he had been watching. She was startled. She took her clothes to cover most of her body. Mu Yanjun, why are you here? Mu Yanjun gloomily looked at her and suddenly sneered. What a beautiful body! Her skin was as white as snow, and her body was so slender that no bones could be seen. He was almost mesmerized by it. But when he thought about how she had fallen in love with the other person he was impersonating, he wondered if she would hand herself over to Jun Bian in the future. Even if he was in disguise, he couldn't stand it. Because in Wei Wei Bai's heart, the one she liked was not Mu Yanjun, but another man. Wei Wei Bai's face turned pale. Get out. Mu Yanjun saw that there was only panic in her eyes, and there was no previous shyness. His repressed anger exploded in an instant. He rushed in front of her, picked her up, and threw her on the bed. Wei Wei Bai was a little dizzy from the fall, but she didn't forget to pull the quilt. Before she could pull the blanket, her hand was pressed down firmly by someone. Then Mu Yanjun's heavy body followed suit. Wei Wei Bai was horrified. Mu Yanjun, you said you would let me go. When Mu Yanjun heard this, the familiar bone-chilling pain in his heart came again. What if I say, I can't let go? Wei Wei Bai was not happy, only frightened. But I have let go of you. Mu Yanjun smiled sinisterly. Yes, because you picked up Jun Bian? Wei Wei Bai hardly thought about it. Don't touch him. Mu Yanjun only felt that his heart was twisted into a ball. His voice was bone-chilling. Are you ordering me now? Wei Wei Bai bit her lip, her voice weak. No, I'm begging you. / Collections at the bottom to record this reading. Chapter 194. She struggled so hard at first, but now she suddenly did not struggle. This was the only reason he could think of. Wei Wei Bai bit her lip, which was full of blood. This silence shattered the last bit of hope in his heart. The fire in his body was extinguished in an instant. You are not afraid that I would have killed him long ago? Wei Wei Bai's eyes were watery. This pitiful and vulnerable appearance was really seductive. She still refused to speak. Mu Yanjun suddenly sneered, mocking himself for thinking too highly of himself. He was humiliating himself. Wasn't he humiliating himself enough? Beating himself into the dust, she was not willing to look at him. In her heart, he was just a person who killed her whole family, a despicable and shameless madman who dominated her. Mu Yanjun endured the severe heartache and slowly released her hand. Her wrist was clearly bruised. It was left behind by his brutality. Mu Yanjun suddenly pinched her jaw, forcing her to open her mouth, and stuffed a life-saving heart protection pill into her mouth. Although after she left the palace, her hemoptysis improved a lot, and Shalimon nourished her body with medicinal meals every day. But he was still afraid that his loss of control today would cause her hemoptysis to flare up again. Mu Yanjun got up and watched her pitifully shrink into a ball, as if she did not know how to fight against his loss of control. If he really wanted her, she would hate him for a lifetime, and there would be no turning back. This made him not dare to take another step forward, for fear that he would lose control again and turn away. Behind him, Wei Wei Bai's voice suddenly became somewhat mournful. Mu Yanjun, you are not a man. Mu Yanjun's footsteps paused. This angry rebuke was like a sword piercing his heart. Wei Wei Bai cried and said, I don't like you, I don't love you. He knew. Mu Yanjun's eyes were suddenly wet, and he quickened his pace. The man I like now is not the same as you. He is kind, brave, beautiful, and gentle. Mu Yanjun almost tripped and fell when he went out. He hated that he could not be deaf. When he rushed out the door, some belatedly realized that his face was full of tears. Mu Yanjun reached out to cover his face and bent over. Was this what it meant to be moved? Sure enough, they couldn't live, but they couldn't die. They were tortured day and night with nowhere to escape. In fact, he might not be able to free himself for the rest of his life. Wei Wei Bai reached out to Mu Yanjun's back as he fled, silently shouting, "If you're a man, come back and do a big job." If it wasn't for the fact that breaking his character setting was equivalent to breaking his favorability rating, she was about to force herself on him just now. As a result, the cooked Mu Yanjun flew away. Wei Wei Bai laid on the bed in despair. Slagstim, just kill me. I've already used all my seductive methods, but it still didn't work. The more the woman struggled, the more excited the man became. While she was struggling, she kept rubbing against his sensitive areas. Moreover, she was delicate and pitiful. She wanted to cry but didn't. She was the most seductive. She looked so pitiful that her eyes widened, and he was aroused. In the end, she scolded him like that, but Mu Yanjun, this bastard, was not angry enough to turn around and rush over to do her. He had been a eunuch for too long. Did he really think of himself as a eunuch? Slagstim stroked Wei Wei Bai's dog head. There's still time. Keep up the good work. I think you're still not very open. Wei Wei Bai suddenly remembered something. She rolled like a carp and quickly got out of bed, putting on her clothes in a mess. Exposing her thighs, exposing her shoulders, she was as miserable as she could be. Then she ran out barefooted and knocked on Jun Baiyan's door. Jun Baiyan's eyes were a little red, his face cold. He was just about to say something, but when he saw her like this, he froze. Wei Wei Bai plunged into his arms and wailed, "I'm not clean, Baiyan. You want me?" Jun Baiyan, System. Collections at the bottom to record the reading record. The Chapter 195. Mu Yanjun rushed back to the palace. The little emperor was making a fuss again. If it weren't for Wei Wei Bai's face, he would have poisoned him, and then found a puppet would not be difficult. Little Fatty waved his hand and ran around. "Where did you hide my mother?" Mu Yanjun had just come in, and little Fatty rolled into his arms. Mu Yanjun lifted his hand and put him in a chair, gloomily asking, "Why? Did the emperor eat too much? I'll give you a few days of diet, so as not to crush the dragon throne with too much meat on the emperor's body." When little Fatty saw him, he trembled all over. But he still plucked up his courage. Where is my mother?" Mu Yanjun's eyes were gloomy. Even a child wanted to steal his woman. Humph. She went out of the palace to recuperate. There are many chores in the palace, and too many people have died. It's not clean, not suitable for recuperation. Little Fatty tried to refute. "Nonsense. My mother would not abandon me." Mu Yanjun looked down at him condescendingly, his mouth hooked up in a cold smile. "Oh, does the emperor think you're very important? You're just a remnant of the Bai family. It's not difficult for me to support another child. Your mother saw that you were of no great use, so it's easy to abandon you." Little Fatty was frightened, his face pale. He suddenly burst into tears. "No, she won't abandon me." Mu Yanjun coldly snorted, turned and left. At the door, he suddenly heard little Fatty ask, "Mu Yanjun, you killed her, didn't you?" Mu Yanjun's footsteps paused, and when he looked back, he saw little Fatty's eyes looking at him with special hatred. Mu Yanjun coldly ridiculed, "I killed her? She killed me, more like." After that, he went out. Little Fatty could not understand his words. Wei Wei Bai suddenly disappeared. Of course he suspected that it was Mu Yanjun, the dead eunuch, who did it. Little Fatty looked at the incense burner, where the incense was lit. This kind of incense was left by his grandfather to prevent the eunuch from monopolizing power. Grandpa said that as long as it was lit, the smell would be light and not easy to detect. Other people would be fine if they smelled it, but eunuchs would die if they did. Little Fatty fiercely pinched his fingers. "Traitor Mu, you killed my entire family and harmed my mother. I will definitely kill you." However, why was it that other people were fine after smelling the incense, but the eunuch was? Mu Yanjun rushed back, wanting to run to Wei Wei Bai before dark. He thought it through and decided that he would accompany her as Jun Baiyan for the rest of his life. Only then would he be able to obtain her love. The disguising master waited, and then began to change his appearance. Halfway through the disguise, Mu Yanjun suddenly realized that something was wrong with his body. He stood up abruptly. The disguise artist was shocked. Superintendent, it's not done yet. Mu Yanjun's eyes began to redden. He endured. Hurry up. Disguising one's appearance was a delicate job. It couldn't be done quickly. The disguise master sped up, but there were still many flaws. Mu Yanjun clenched his fist, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged. In the end, the disguise master had no choice but to say, "All right, Superintendent." But Mu Yanjun did not finish listening and quickly disappeared in place. The disguise master finished speaking. "It's only for one night. Remember to change your appearance again tomorrow." Mu Yanjun ran so fast because he suddenly thought of the symptoms on his body. He was poisoned. Some people in the Bai family specialized in researching poisons, and one of them was aimed at eunuchs. Eunuchs had no root, and their lust could not be vented normally. Therefore, this drug stimulated the eunuch's lust to explode. When normal people encountered it, as long as they simply vented, even if they solved it with their own hands, they could return to normal. But eunuchs could not. They could only suffocate to death. He was not a eunuch, so when he encountered this kind of drug, the accumulated lust of the past suddenly broke out. In particular, his lust for Wei Wei Bai. Address of the full text: https://www.sashu.com/// Download address of the reading: https://m.sashu.com, Chapter 196. Mu Yanjun's hand quickly pressed against his face. The candlelight swayed, and the dark shadow on his face bared its fangs and claws. Wei Wei Bai held the mask in her hand and stared at him blankly. Just a moment ago, the atmosphere of love and sweetness disappeared in the blink of an eye. Only a terrible silence circulated between the two. Wei Wei Bai suddenly woke up. Her voice was still a little sluggish. "Mu Yanjun?" Mu Yanjun pursed his lips. Compared to Jun Baiyan's face, it was much more delicate, full of a gloomy temperament. Wei Wei Bai finally reacted completely. She reached out and pushed him hard. Mu Yanjun was already exposed, and his heart was in chaos. He had thought of a good life with her, and used the identity of Jun Baiyan to accompany her. But what if he was exposed? Mu Yanjun unexpectedly found that he had never thought about being exposed. Maybe he didn't dare to think about it. Wei Wei Bai's action was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire, completely igniting his inner fear. She knew. She must hate him. Mu Yanjun clasped his hands and pulled her back into his arms. Both of them wore no clothes, their skin was touching, and their breaths were equally chaotic. In the middle of the night, the ambiguity was incomparably chaotic. Wei Wei Bai was trembling all over. She kept asking, "Who are you? Who are you?" Mu Yanjun knew that once some people encountered something that they couldn't bear, they would be like Wei Wei Bai and begin to escape. Who he was not very obvious. The sadness in Mu Yanjun's eyes was strong, but the words on his mouth were very gloomy. "Who am I? Just now you were very intimate with me in bed. How can you not recognize me in a blink of an eye?" Wei Wei Bai's eyes showed fear. "No, the one with me is Jun Baiyan." Did you kill him?" Mu Yanjun realized what she was afraid of. She was not afraid that he was Jun Baiyan, but that he would kill Jun Baiyan and then replace him with his appearance. Mu Yanjun's eyes were frightening, and his voice was gloomy. "Who do you think Jun Baiyan is?" Wei Wei Bai's pupil shrank as if she didn't dare to face his question. He immediately caught it and finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. His laughter was mournful. "Wei Wei Bai, when did you learn to deceive yourself?" Wei Wei Bai immediately wanted to struggle, not wanting to listen to him. But Mu Yanjun only wanted to uncover everything. Anyway, it was ruined, so he might as well destroy it more thoroughly. "It was me. It was me from the beginning to the end. I was the one who walked with you in the rain. I was the one who talked to you about poetry and painting. I was the one who saved you. I was the one who wanted to marry you." Wei Wei Bai struggled even harder, and her voice was obviously weak. "You lied to me." Mu Yanjun pushed her back onto the bed. His hand clasped on her shoulder. His long hair poured down and fell on her body. "Lie to you?" His voice was cold and raised, with a gorgeous magnetism. "I'm lying to you. You've only had feelings for two men. One is me, the other is also me. Wei Wei Bai's face had a kind of blank stagnation, and this blankness was suddenly stained with despair. But Mu Yanjun had to force her to a dead end, forcing her to admit her feelings. That's why I've always been the only one you love. Wei Wei Bai reached out, her nails firmly grasping the flesh of his arm. Her crying voice was obvious. Mu Yanjun, where did you hide Jun Baiyan? Will you let him go? Mu Yanjun felt that her words were hurtful and hurt too much. He was deeply saddened, and his anger surged. There is no such person as Jun Baiyan. This person was fabricated by me. You are so stupid. How could you be deceived by such a simple trick? Fast crossing system. Man God, come here. Fast crossing system. Man God, come here. Read at https://www.sashu.com/fast crossing system. Man God, come here. Fast crossing system. Man God, come here. Read at https://m/sashu.com the fast crossing system. Man God, come here, comma. Chapter 197. Wei Wei Bai's face was pale. Don't say it. His voice was full of malice. Do you know what it's like to be moved? Being tortured day and night. 1,000 cuts is nothing more than this. The Jun Baiyan you like does not exist. This man is me from beginning to end. Wei Wei Bai's voice was sharp. Don't say it, Mu Yanjun. Mu Yanjun pinched her chin, not allowing her eyes to deviate from him. If I want to torture someone, I will torture them to the end. You are not afraid of physical torture. How does it feel to hand over your heart now? The tears in Wei Wei Bai's eyes rolled down and fell on his fingers. It was like touching the tip of a knife, almost painful to see blood. Mu Yanjun's heart was incomparably ruthless. He was in pain, but he also wanted to drag her to hell. Only in this way, she would not have the strength to escape from him again. I have been lying to you, knowing you like people like Jun Baiyan, so I pretended to be such a person. You hate me. I hate you. Mu Yanjun said to the end, and his eyes began to redden. Your Bai family destroyed all the most important things in my life. And I also killed your whole family, reducing you to this state of captivity. We are supposed to be enemies. They were enemies to begin with. They must hate each other. How could he fall in love with her? How could he? Mu Yanjun's fingers gently stroked her face. There was a desperate madness on his face. If I am not Jun Baiyan, I am not worthy of your love, then hate me. I don't care anyway. You can't escape me in the future. If you want to die, I will kill the little emperor, and then kill myself to find you. His words were resolute. There was no way back. On the road to the underworld, you can't escape me. Wei Wei Bai finally couldn't stand it. She opened her mouth to say something, but a mouthful of blood gushed out. The hemoptysis completely broke out. Mu Yanjun panicked. Wei Wei Bai's face was ashen. She coughed heartbreakingly, blood staining the quilt. Mu Yanjun's mind was torn apart. He reached out and quickly picked up the clothes under his bed and took out the last remaining life-saving pill. It was too difficult to find the ingredients for this kind of life-saving pill. So after feeding Wei Wei Bai, he ran out of pills. He stuffed the medicine into Wei Wei Bai's mouth, but she leaned over the bed and coughed out the medicine and blood in her mouth. Mu Yanjun was truly afraid. Just as he was about to carry her to seek medical attention, Wei Wei Bai suddenly raised her head. Her face was extremely pale, and her lips were stained with blood. She looked strangely gorgeous. Scram, she said coldly. Mu Yanjun's whole body stiffened. He only felt her hateful eyes looking at him, unbearable and terrible. Let's see the doctor first. Wei Wei Bai gritted her teeth. Blood trickled down from the corner of her mouth. Her voice became shrill. Mu Yanjun, get out of my sight. Mu Yanjun's hurtful momentum was defeated by her desperate appearance at the moment. He reached out and rolled up the clothes. In a flash, they were draped over her body, and he casually put on his own clothes. Then he hugged Wei Wei Bai with the quilt and flew out at a very fast speed. Once Wei Wei Bai's coughing up blood symptoms began, it was life-threatening. Entering the palace, finding the imperial physician, feeding the medicine, after a series of chaos. Finally, the situation was stable. But the imperial physician said to Mu Yanjun with an ugly face, "The situation is not good, Du Zhu." Mu Yanjun sat by the bed, holding the hand of the sleeping Wei Wei Bai, and raised his eyes when he heard the words. The imperial physician braced himself and said, "Nyang Nyang's life can't be saved. Fast crossing system, male god, you come here. Fast crossing system, male god, you come here." Address of the full text, https://www.sashu.com//fast crossing system, male god, you come here. Crossing system, male god, you come here. Fast crossing system, male god, you come here, comma. Chapter 198. Mu Yanjun did not seem to understand the meaning of this sentence, but repeated gloomily, "Can't save?" When the imperial physician saw this, he was so frightened that he fell to the ground. Du Zhu. The Nyang's 5 viscera and 6 bowels are showing signs of decay. Her life is less than 10 days. Coughing up blood is difficult to treat. I don't know what stimulated the Nyang, but the blood has attacked her heart, causing her body to weaken rapidly. Mu Yanjun suddenly slapped the chair next to him, and the chair, along with the table next to it, collapsed at the same time. In the room, except for the bed, everything else was affected by the aftershocks and could not stop shaking. The imperial physician was shaking the most. Mu Yanjun whispered, "Say it again." The imperial physician knew that lying could not escape, so he could only tell the truth. Du Zhu. It's not that this one doesn't want to treat, but the Nyang's physical condition cannot bear any medicine. Can't feed the medicine? Is this not the same as waiting for death? As a result, he had not finished speaking when Mu Yanjun was already furious and kicked him out of the door. "If you can't treat her, then call all your fellow disciples to come to me. If she can't be cured, I will kill one of you." The imperial physician was horrified. No one had forgotten Mu Yanjun's appearance when he raised the butcher's knife. Were the deaths of the royal family and the Bai family not enough? This man was more terrible than the evil spirits of hell. Mu Yanjun returned to the bedside, and he knew that what the imperial physician said was true. Her face was already showing signs of dying. Mu Yanjun looked down at her and suddenly whispered, "Wei Wei, what do you want me to do?" Wei Wei Bai's breathing was weak. Mu Yanjun suddenly laughed twice. "I hurt you to this point. Why don't you get up and kill me?" He understood the power of hatred best. It was this emotion of hatred that allowed him to climb from the dirtiest place to his present position. So if she really hated him, shouldn't she wake up and fight with him? Mu Yanjun suddenly pulled out the knife and stuffed it into her hand. "You wake up for me. Everything you have is ruined by me. If you really hate me, get up and kill me." Wei Wei Bai's hand softened, and the knife in her hand fell to the ground. Mu Yanjun scooped up the knife and put it back in her hand. His own hand also held it, not letting the knife fall to the ground. "If you kill me, the little emperor will have a good life, and the Bai family that I destroyed will be able to regain its reputation and not leave a bad name for 10,000 years. Otherwise, I will turn the world upside down and make the people suffer." Wei Wei Bai's fingers trembled. When Mu Yanjun saw this, his voice was also agitated. "Wake up, aren't you the softest? If you don't get up, I will kill 100 people a day. Little Emperor, little Amo, I will kill everyone you care about." A painful struggle appeared on her face, as if she was tugging at something to wake up. Seeing that it was effective, he immediately threatened, "Not only will I kill people, but I will also start a war and destroy this country." Wei Wei Bai's lips trembled as if she wanted to say something. Mu Yanjun said viciously, "If you don't wake up, I will bury the whole world with you." Wei Wei Bai suddenly opened her eyes and screamed, "You can't do this." Mu Yanjun saw that she had woken up, and the whole person almost sat on the ground. His heart finally fell to the ground. He smiled sadly. "I can. You can leave me. I can kill anyone. I have never been a good person." Wei Wei Bai's face was very pale, and her clear eyes were bleak. "You are not afraid of being hated by everyone and finally dying without a burial place?" Mu Yanjun's eyes were very cruel. I don't care. Wei Wei Bai looked at him foolishly and suddenly smiled miserably. You are really stupid. Mu Yanjun pursed his lips and did not speak. She suddenly sighed softly. I am also stupid. I can't bear to see you spurned by the whole world. Mu Yanjun suddenly stared. Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 95. Full text //. Download. Comma. Chapter 199. Wei Wei Bai finished and tiredly closed her eyes. I'm tired. Mu Yanjun saw her like this and stood by the bed for a long time, but she refused to look up at him again. He couldn't play hard on her, and finally could only compromise. I'll let the little emperor come to see you. Wei Wei Bai's eyelashes trembled. Mu Yanjun saw her like this, smiled bitterly, and turned to go out to order someone to call the little fatty. When the little fatty ran over, Mu Yanjun was standing outside the door. It had been raining for the past few days, and the sky was overcast. The little fatty glared fiercely at Mu Yanjun, and then rushed into the room. He threw himself at Wei Wei Bai's bedside and bawled. Wei Wei Bai, who had just finished communicating with the system about how much time was left, was startled by the crying, and almost jumped up. The little fatty saw Wei Wei Bai weakly open her eyes, and quickly suppressed his crying. Mother, are you all right? Wei Wei Bai gasped for breath, and then said, I'm fine. The little fatty flattened his mouth. Did that traitor Mu do something to you? Wei Wei Bai shook her head. No. The little fatty was anxious. I saw it all. He let you fake your death and lose your identity. He wanted to marry you, kiss you, and finally hide you. Isn't this intention obvious? Wei Wei Bai, this 6-year-old child is so precocious. What was she doing when she was 6? Wearing a princess dress and playing with mud. The little fatty saw her guilty look and angrily scolded, that dead eunuch, that castrated goods. Mother, you are a golden branch and jade leaf. What qualifications does he have to dominate you? So what if he covers the sky with one hand? Who doesn't know what his identity is? Wei Wei Bai was stunned. No. The little fatty was furious. Mother, we don't have to be afraid of him. At worst, I will die with him. I won't let him insult you again. Wei Wei Bai tried her best to explain. No insult. Little fatty cried again. I know that you have no choice but to suffer because of me. But why didn't you ask me? I don't want you to be trampled on like this. Wei Wei Bai was about to explain. Little fatty jumped up. No, you can't stay in his house. It's dirty where a toad lives. Wei Wei Bai, little fatty was just about to go out and call for people to take her away. Wei Wei Bai finally had to take action. Otherwise, she was worried that this little fatty would just go out and be cut in half by Mu Yanjun. Cheer, come back. This was the first time Wei Wei Bai called little fatty by his name. His surname was Bai and his name was Chi. Little fatty's quick footsteps came to a halt, and he almost rolled over due to inertia. He hesitated for a moment before obediently returning. Mother. Wei Wei Bai looked at him lovingly. You're still young. You don't understand. The tears in little fatty's eyes flowed out again. It's because I'm young that I don't have the strength to protect you. Wei Wei Bai reached out and gently held his little chubby hand. I mean, you don't understand the matter between me and him. Little fatty stared at her blankly. Wei Wei Bai sighed faintly. Me and him, it's not a forced relationship. Standing outside the door, Mu Yanjun heard her voice faintly pass over. There was no hatred, but a gentle sigh in the tranquility. He had harmed her to this point. She was still willing to defend him? Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 96. Little fatty didn't understand. He just looked sadly at Wei Wei Bai. Wei Wei Bai whispered, He is the first man I've ever been moved by. I don't care what his identity is. I still can't stop myself from not liking him. Standing outside the door, Mu Yanjun stepped back a few steps, just in time to be drenched by the rain. She still likes him? Ding. The male lead's favorability is at 97. Full text //. Download. Chapter 200. Little fatty couldn't believe it. But he is our enemy, mother. Wei Wei Bai was silent for a long time, then sighed. So we were wrong from the beginning. I don't have much time left. In the last days, I still won't forgive him. But, she paused and finally said with relief, but I will always like him, not forgiving him for killing so many people, killing everyone in the Bai family. But when she didn't forgive him, she would still be moved by him, and then fall deeply in love with him. This was what Mu Yanjun heard. His face was full of rain, cold and incomparable, but his heart was burning. Even if she didn't forgive him for the evil he had done, at least she still had him in her heart. For Mu Yanjun, this was enough for him to be grateful. Wei Wei Bai appeased little fatty and let him be sent out. The rain outside was heavier. After Mu Yanjun saw the little emperor leave, he couldn't help but go to the door and push it open to go in and see her. Wei Wei Bai looked up and saw him. She bowed her head again, expressionless. Mu Yanjun's mood was much better. At least she still liked him, didn't she? I will find the medicine for you. Although the disease of coughing up blood is difficult to treat, I have received information that on the snowy mountains in the east, there is a doctor who lives there. He is best at treating this. When he spoke softly, Wei Wei Bai suddenly looked up at him. Mu Yanjun only felt that her eyes were particularly soft, so soft that his heart was warm. Wei Wei Bai stared at him for a while, then whispered, "Seems like..." Mu Yanjun's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. She finally said as if to herself, "The way you talk now, seems like..." She didn't say anything more, but the thoughtful Mu Yanjun guessed. His heart slowly cooled down. "Seems like what?" Wei Wei Bai was silent, her lips slightly pursed. Mu Yanjun sneered. "Seems like Jun Baiyan." When Wei Wei Bai heard the name, there was some uncontrollable trembling. Mu Yanjun suddenly understood. "Just now, you told the little emperor that you still like me. Actually, the person you like is still Jun Baiyan, right?" Wei Wei Bai quickly refuted. "No, She seemed to want to open her mouth several times to refute, but in the end, under Mu Yanjun's hopeful and desperate eyes, she was silent. What else did Mu Yanjun not understand? He clenched his fists and wished he could smash everything in the house. But when he saw her sitting on the bed, weak and thin, he didn't dare to get angry. He was worried that she would act up again. He quickly turned around and said, "Take good care of her. I'll go back to the eastern mountain in a few days and invite the doctor over." Wei Wei Bai quietly said, "I don't have much time left. Can you stay in these last days?" If she said these words because she liked him, he didn't know how happy he would be. But was she talking to him? She was talking to Jun Baiyan. Mu Yanjun finally couldn't bear it. His voice was cold and sarcastic. "Why, do you want me to put on the mask of Jun Baiyan again and accompany you?" Wei Wei Bai's expression darkened. "Is that what you think?" Otherwise, what else could he think? Mu Yanjun was furious, but he could only suppress it. He couldn't lose his temper at her. Her body couldn't bear it. "I'll be back as soon as possible," Mu Yanjun said as he stepped out of the door. Then he seemed to think of something. He looked back, but saw the affection in Wei Wei Bai's eyes that was too late to put away. "Fast crossing system. Man God, you come here. /fast crossing system. Man God, you come here. /fast crossing system. Man God, you come here. Fast crossing system. Man God, you come here. The fast crossing system. Man God, you come here." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.